With Rhino Shield, in 15 years, your home will still have that, wow, it looks like you just got it painted. We've done large condo complexes, parking garages, pole barns, and commercial strip malls. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. Evaluations are free. 877-25.
What did you think? This was a day off?
Not a chance.
No way. Brad's here.
Why
Ryan's
didn't I
here.
need a day off?
We don't need a day off. We never take a day off. Not even Sundays and Saturdays.
I would like the day off
Oh, we do want a day off. Sorry.
tomorrow.
Hey, we're all here, so glad you're here. We got a full show for you, as usual.
You ever go on here and go, man, we got nothing today?
Yeah.
Take a drink every time we say this is a pack show, this is going to be a great
show.
show.
Really big
Hannah
show.
and I have been laughing about that for about a week now.
Yeah.
Well, usually on a day like today, you might have kind of a light show. But I think what I'm saying is in contrast to the way you might feel today,
It is going to be kind of a light show.
it is a light show. Well, and by light show, it means we have drones. We're going to have a full sky
Stoplight.
light show.
We're going
Full
to
light
take
show.
calls in the first hour.
Sweet. I didn't know that.
So we're going to take calls in the first hour. Our YouTube poll today is, how close are we to losing our country?
That's what the calls are going to be about.
And that's what the calls are going to be about. How close are we to losing our country? Is it already lost? Are we one presidential cycle away, one generation away, or the country will be just fine?
Always got to put something in for the libs.
Yep. And it's usually...
I mean, at least at this point in time. If we ask again in 4 years and the administration changes, that's what the conservatives will say.
Yeah. And it's usually option D. So that's the YouTube live chat poll. If you are watching on not YouTube, you'll have to go over to YouTube to make that vote. So just search out Annie Frey on YouTube, or you could go to youtube.com/c/.
You can tell that the boys are in charge of this camera alignment. There we go.
The boys.
Yes.
It was just me.
You're
Yeah.
the producer.
Yeah, but I'm doing other.
Thank you.
producer
Finally.
stuff.
Finally. Look, I would have taken blame
Now
for
look
that
what
one.
you've
No,
done.
both of you. No.
Yeah.
Look what you've done. Now he thinks it's
Yes.
not his
If the
responsibility.
camera was aligned, then
Ryan's gonna be like,
Yes.
fan me and feed me grapes, Mr. Producer.
That's true.
not what I did.
That's not gonna happen.
That's great. Thank you.
Fix your own camera.
Thank
it's your
you.
camera.
I walk in here and I'm like, what's up with this camera? I wish the
You know,
producer
if I
would
walked,
have
if I
done
walked
something.
right over there to my camera, it would look fine. All right. Anyway,
This is a good.
do you want to talk about the roundup?
This is a good question. I'm looking forward to hearing the
Yeah.
calls about it because I could go either end of that spectrum. What
Yeah,
happened?
it could be. I don't know.
What do you
Hannah, what do you think?
His mic's all the way to the right. So I don't know.
Well,
Look,
that'll
he
be
goes
in
and
the
stands
shot.
right in
I
the
would
middle of
say
the
you should
shot.
go a little this
Look,
way.
I can
Yeah.
also stand right in the middle of the shot
You
if
can
I
see,
just
like, the
try.
whole hallway.
See the whole hallway.
Oh,
Like
that's not
that's
bad. Oh,
bad.
look, now you got the flag.
Yep, and
Yeah.
you've got Wiggins in that shot too.
No, you don't.
You don't.
Mm.
He's not that big.
I'm not in that
He's
shot.
kind of.
Just my head.
Just his head.
Ah. Hi. I'm back. See, look, you can just stand right in the middle of the shot if you want to make it a
Yeah.
good shot. I was just trying
Yeah.
to make
So
room
Ryan
for Brad.
Ryan walks up and he stands in the middle of the shot and it leaves me out of it.
I like this.
I guess
being
we're
the
doing. I guess we're. This is our pre-show, huh? Steve Moore at 107, Jim Carafano at 125.
best. See, that's why I said it's still a full show.
It is a full show.
I didn't say it wasn't a full show.
It's
Well,
a lighter
Not
show.
taking a half.
She said
I
it's
said
a light show.
I said it was a drone show. Brad said it was a smoke
People
show,
aren't
but he was talking about me.
Only one of us has been referred to as a smoke show on
Hannah
this show.
just
I
looked
got-
over here and
got
said, "I
dressed
think that looks
today
like a
just
gun
in case
show."
Ryan and I had to switch outfits.
Yeah, and I didn't wear an undershirt because I don't have power, and I can't even see what I'm picking out of my closet.
Oh.
Ah,
That's why you need to wear a white button-up shirt and black slacks
every day.
every day.
Do you have a white button-up shirt and black slacks?
I got a shirt. I don't know about the black slacks.
He's got a navy suit. I know that.
I wear navy pants. And every time I put them on, I'm like, in the navy.
Oh man.
Really, that looks like it. How right.
This is why you're here.
What's in the roundup today?
Oh
You have to
gosh.
listen to 12:45.
Yeah.
12:45. Okay, I won't tell you, but there are 4 stories and all of them good.
I think the
All
question
good.
is, what's in Wiggins America today?
Yeah.
And the answer is the roundup.
The
There we
roundup.
Yeah, the roundup, the Monday roundup. That's
All
it.
right.
Yep, that's the pre-show.
That's
Get ready to call
Show.
in.
350 Light Show.
One easy number, 314-293-2600, or Bart with a B, Inman with an I.com.
Hi, this is Thomas Helbig with the Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw, Tom's nephew. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is in linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online at retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review. Learn the strategies that have helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 36 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online at retirementkey.com. That's retirementkey.com.
If you need solid hires fast, you need Indeed. The all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates from the same place. Want to find your next great hire? Visit Indeed.com/credit.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Warmer days are coming. Time to schedule your annual AC system check for as little as $15 a month. For any residential or commercial HVAC services, visit aircomfortservice.com.
This hour of the Annie Frey Show is brought to you by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Come on, turn the radio on. It's Saturday and I won't be long.
Don't get me wrong. I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
Apurva always challenges me. I think that's what has always kept us together, is she pushes me. And she's the person who pushed me the most when I said, look, Apurva, I think we're seriously considering doing this last December. Her first question to me was, are you sure we're not going to be in a better place when these kids aren't grown up? And 20 years from now, maybe we'll even have more experience to lead the country more effectively. And that was the right question to ask. And we talked about it for a long time. I think the reality is, though, I don't think we have 20 years to work with. That's the reality.
So Vivek Ramaswamy running for the presidency. I think he says there, did he say in that clip that he's 37 years old?
I wasn't listening.
Okay, yeah. Thanks,
if I'm elected president, we're leaving office in January of 2033. These kids will be entering high school around then.
Right.
And I'll tell you this, if we haven't fixed our country by then, I think there's a grave risk that we don't have a country left.
Oof.
And so when we think about our responsibility as parents, it is to create the country that allowed Apurva and I to live our version of the American dream. To actually, this may be our last and only chance to pass that on to this next generation. And as a 37-year-old, as millennials, I think it's our responsibility to actually reach that next generation, to be proud of our country again. It's a national pride that we have long lacked.
So that his wife there is Apurva, and this video is taken from a panel that he is on. His wife is sitting up there, and this video starts with his little kids running up on the stage, and one of them sits in his lap, and one of them is sitting in his mom's lap or by his mom. And the question that is being posed there by Vivek Ramaswamy, who's running for president right now as a Republican candidate, is, okay, I'm 37 years old. I've got little kids in tow. If I think I would like to be the president of the United States and I have something to offer this country that requires me as an individual to serve in that capacity, Is 37 years old with a very young family the right time to do that? And Vivek says, if we wait, I'm not 100% sure we're going to have a country to fight for. Boy, that's heavy stuff. Hannah, when you listen to Vivek, you have to be 35 years old to run for president.
Yeah.
He's just slipping in there, and he's
Barely
younger
made
than
it.
I am, which is awful to think that I'm old enough to have people who are younger than me running for president, but here I am at 39. What do you I don't know if you want to weigh in on whether you agree with him or not, but when you hear that, what do you think?
That makes me really sad for the current state of our country to think that we might not be strong enough to make it long, like for his younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when I hear that clip, I love, like, he is very, like, enthusiastic, and really you can tell his love for America, and he wants change and he wants to fix things. And yeah, I really like him as a candidate.
Yeah.
I love Ron DeSantis the most, clearly. Woo! But Vivek is a very strong candidate, and I like to see his vision for the future. And I mean, he's basically saying that he understands he's in a really prime time in his life and his kids are young and it's a heavy job, but he will be willing to take it on to fix our country. And I think that's great.
Well, this is a question I'm asking you. And every day we do a YouTube live chat poll, but I'm expanding it today. It is the eve of Independence Day in our country. It's the 247th Independence Day, anniversary of Independence Day. And I find that to be incredibly interesting because if it's 247 and 23, it'll be the 48th and 24, which means the next president is going to be able to celebrate. How would you say 250 years? I mean, that's a landmark.
Yeah.
That's a landmark anniversary. I think it's a really compelling thought exercise to say, if you were to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, how drastically different a Republican president would lead that celebration and a Democrat president would lead that celebration. If you are annoyed with the idea of voting for Joe Biden or Donald Trump, I know people who are super excited about voting for Donald Trump again. I know literally nobody who is excited to vote for Joe Biden again, but will do so in a minute if Donald Trump is the opponent. If Donald Trump isn't the opponent, they would still begrudgingly, I think, vote Democrat, but they are not excited to vote for Joe Biden. I don't know of a single person who is enthusiastic about Joe Biden.
I don't know anybody in general that's voting for Joe Biden. Truly.
Yeah?
Even Democrats that I know that are close to me, they never talk about voting for him again.
There's not. You can't be a rational person. This is completely an opinion, obviously. But I don't feel like you can be a rational person and look at Joe Biden and say he is the best person to continue to lead this country for the next 4 years. You might 100% agree with his policies. You might 100% agree that his, as they keep saying, legislative agenda is to be championed. Well, that's not him. Honestly, that's not him. You can have staff lead through, whip votes for, and pass bills in Congress that you will put your ink on the bill when it's done to sign it into law. Joe Biden's not the guy who's getting that done. And Democrats know that he's not the best choice. When I say that you can't be rational and think that Joe Biden is the best that the Democrats have to offer, if somebody wants to argue that for me, it's going to be because of what Joe Biden's age and, honestly, my word, incompetency or senility, what it provides a larger apparatus to accomplish. The ego that exists for somebody like Gavin Newsom, if he comes in, you think he's going to be a little more active in the process than a Joe Biden? Of course he is. Even Kamala Harris is going to find herself in the midst of everything. And as the president of the United States, should she arrive at that position, have a lot more to say about how things go than Joe Biden is. And they're also not going to be able to escape the media. Folks, there is not another Democrat who could successfully be elected to the presidency who would have as much of an excuse to escape questions by the media as Joe Biden will. The protection around this president is wrapped up in the idea that he's a, quote, very busy man. Well, no sugar, Sherlock. He's the president of the United States. Everybody knows he's busy. Donald Trump couldn't find a press pool that he would walk away from. If they were there, he wanted to talk. And he wanted to be on the record. And he wanted everyone to know where Donald Trump was on any particular issue at any given time. Joe Biden is not confronted with these elements with any frequency, and when he is, it's calculated, and it's still a disaster. Joe Biden's ability to avoid the press because of who Joe Biden is actually insulation for them to be able to run this administration the way that they are. The question is how long is he going to last? I feel sorry for the guy. Jill Biden, who is, last I looked, 72 years old, what are you doing to this man? Do you love him? It doesn't, I'm telling you as a wife myself, it's not how I'd love my husband if we were in this position. I would want to protect my husband. For some reason, it doesn't seem as though that's what she wants to do, unless there's some wild reason why him being the president of the United States is the only way to protect him. You can dig into that however you see fit. So the question for you is, if you listen to Vivek, 37 years old, little kids on his lap that are not old enough to actually remember the moment of sitting on dad's lap while he's running for president, they're not going to remember that moment 10 years later because they're that young. How close are we to losing our country? That's the question for you. I want to know what you think. So today, little moving into a holiday midweek here, it's kind of an interesting way to plan a show, but I want to know what you think about it. So I'm taking your phone calls, 314-241-9797, 314-241-9797. You can call the station and you can tell me how close you think we are to losing our country. On the YouTube chat where we have the poll every day, that's the same poll that we have positioned up there. Here are your 4 options on the YouTube poll, but if you want to call in and tell us about your thoughts on the issue, then you can kind of broaden from there. Your 4 options are, the country's already lost. That's depressing. The next one is we're one presidential cycle away from losing our country. The third option is we're one generation away from losing our country. And the fourth option is the country's going to be just fine. Relax. I tend to think that we're always a generation away from losing our country, and it depends on how you handle the rearing of the children that we're bringing up, and do you teach them to love America? Going back to what I said before, if you compare notes, if you have a Republican president, if you have a Democrat president, how do each of them champion the idea of American pride? Pride of country, love of country, dedication to preserving what America is and stands for the world, but also introspectively for one another, our fellow Americans. I've heard people suggest that there's this kind of somehow this American ideal of, and not even in a political sense, but it's a kind of a self-centered view that you should achieve success, wild success, as much as you possibly can, and that somehow this independence that is specifically American is somewhat of a selfish act. You ever heard anyone suggest that this American individualism, pursuit of, massive success, people who set out to achieve wealth and independence financially are often looking to achieve as wild as they can, and then you get to a point where you realize the sacrifice that's going to need to be made in order to achieve a further success. There's an equilibrium there that exists. And you find out how much you're willing to sacrifice for an amount of success that you're willing to live with. That's the balance. For instance, when I got into media, initially I wanted to be a sports reporter. I wanted to be on the sidelines of like NFL games or college games and be reporting there. And when I was in a position to realize up close and personal, because I was working in sports media in St. Louis for 3 years, this is how dumb I am. I was like, hold up. All these games that I would be reporting on, they're all on nights and weekends on some of the biggest nights of the year. I don't want to be at work then. I want to be home with a family. I didn't have a family at that time, but it did occur to me that this was going to be a sacrifice I would have to make. Did I want to make it in favor of career and sacrifice family, or would I sacrifice family in favor of a career? And I decided to move out of sports talk media and get into news talk media and work at what was then a standard 9 to 5 of sorts and pursue this dream. When I transferred over here, I did not know that I would be doing a midday show, which is pretty fantastic. But it was a question that I had to ask myself. And, there'd be a lot of potential involved in being a sideline reporter. If you can get a good contract with a good company, you could make a decent wage. But I didn't want that because I knew that I wanted family more. And of course, if you're choosing family in career, generally speaking, on the whole, that means that you're choosing less in the bank account. If you're having to make the choice between career and family, you're going to make a sacrifice no matter which way you go. That's what Americans get to choose. But this idea that you would choose yourself and your prosperity in America is something that, when looked at in a uniquely American way, politicians will often use that as a way to talk about how selfish Americans are and how we should give of ourselves. I got something to say to that. Because in America, that independence, that preservation of liberty, that individualism that exists in America is a separation between the people of this country and its government, and it actually compels individual Americans to look out for one another even more. Because the solutions to our problems, and individualism doesn't deny the existence of problems. The individualism there from the government says, no, you as an American citizen are to look after your brother and sister. Because you shouldn't be sitting around waiting for some far-reaching, overexerting government to show up and save the day. Because they're not going to, not in this country, because we rely on one another, ourselves, and an enormous amount of generosity that is uniquely American. I want to know from you, how close are we to losing our country? Is it already lost? Is it one presidential election away, one generation, or the country will be just fine? I'm going to take your phone calls, 314-241-9797. Before we get to the break, I'm going to take Derek's right here. Derek, thanks for calling the show. You got an answer to that question? How close are we to losing our country?
I think we're either going to have balkanization within the next decade or it's going to be a boogaloo. I mean, one side's going to push the other too much, and, democracies, republics, they only last, 250 years? I think we're already there. I mean, I think we're slowly seeing our rights being trampled on, and we're slowly seeing, just the decay of society. I mean, look at our moral values today. We're done. I mean, I hate saying it like that, but I'm blackpilled in that manner that I don't think you and I can vote our way out of this. And, we've had some good wins in the Supreme Court and other laws, but, let's face it. The left will keep taking every ounce they can until they literally take no more.
Derek, thank you for the phone call. Do you agree with Derek? I'd love to know. If you give us a call, next segment dedicated to you to have your voice on this really important issue. Derek has a pretty bleak outlook. Do you see it differently? Do you think Derek is right? How close are we to losing this wonderful country that we have? Give us a call, 314-241-9797. 314-241-9797. You on the Annie Frey Show when we come back.
I was born by God's dear grace.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
With the stars and stripes and the eagle fly. It's a big old...
Ironically, I hope my husband's not still there, but he did have a dentist appointment today. The Frey family goes to Foley Dental Group, 618-288-9670. I'm going to check my phone right now because he was supposed to check for a cleaning for me. And looks like he was able to talk to them about that. When it's time to go to the dentist for your general cleanings, for x-rays, for chipped teeth, I got a chipped tooth, guys. It doesn't hurt, but I'm afraid of what happens next. I go to Foley Dental Group. I go to them because I rely on them to give me a full picture of my health, everything they can see through your dental health. It's pretty shocking, actually. They do a wonderful job. They have the best technology and the kindest dentists who are going to guide you and your dental health in the direction it needs to go, to give you the option, put you in the driver's seat of how you are going to make your next decision on what you want to have done for your mouth. If you have missing teeth and you need a good, reliable way to replace those and you want options, you go to Foley Dental Group. Trust them with your dental care. I trust them with my children's dental care. I can't give a better endorsement to a medical provider than that. Make an appointment at 618-288-9670, 618-288-9670, online at FoleyDentalGroup.com.
If you love eating out, let me introduce you to Satchmo's Bar and Grill. Mark Cox here from my friends at Satchmo's. They have daily lunch and dinner specials. They're a from-scratch kitchen with food and cocktails, and they have weekly specials. Wagyu meatloaf on Monday nights, steak night on Wednesdays, burger night for just $6.95 on Thursdays, and plenty of flat-screen TVs to catch the big game. Check them out on Facebook or online at Satchmo'sGrill.com at Olive in 141.
You want to retire soon, but everyone keeps telling you to wait until you're 65. After all, that's the age that you qualify for Medicare and you're close to full retirement age. I'm Marvin Mitchell, president of Compass Retirement Solutions. In my new book, Retire Early, The 9 Critical Decisions When Retiring Before 65, I discuss proper planning to help make early retirement possible. When to take Social Security, what to do with your 401k, health care, how to maximize retirement income, and much more. Get a complimentary copy of Retire Early by calling 1-800-743-8510. That's 1-800-743-8510. Can you retire early? Call 1-800-743-8510 for your copy of Retire Early, the 9 critical decisions when retiring before 65.
Investments and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and Illinois. Compass Retirement Solutions is not affiliated with the U.S. government or any governmental agency.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing. Together, millions of things for our planet. Water sports are a great summer activity and can be eco-friendly too. Avoid activities like jet skiing or water skiing, opting for activities like kayaking or paddleboarding instead. Swimming, snorkeling, and diving are great activities too, and have virtually no impact on the environment. And use sunscreen labeled Reef Safe to help protect marine wildlife. When we each share our one thing, it becomes 100 things, 1,000 things, 1,000,000 things for our planet. What's your one thing?
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is proud to support Greater St. Louis Honor Flight. Sign your veteran up for the Honor Flight today at gslhonorflight.org. And for heating services, visit aircomfortservice.com.
For details and a list of all station contest rules, visit www.971talk.com/rules. Tuesday night, we've got the music. Tune in to 97.1 on July 4th from 8 to 11 for the American soundtrack. Music to enhance your July 4th fireworks experience, hosted by Ryan Wiggins. A 4th of July tradition. This is the Annie Frey Show.
Sun coming up.
Interact with Annie on Facebook. The Annie Frey Show.
School bus driver in a traffic jam. Staring at the faces in a rearview mirror. Looking at the promise of the promised land.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. We appreciate you being with us on an Independence Day Eve. And we're talking a little bit about the health of the country, and we are taking your phone calls. So if you're trying to get a hold of us, call us back, 314-241-9797, 314-241-9797. We're going to get as many phone calls in here as we possibly can. The question is, how close are we to losing our country? You've got 4 options, and we're going to get the YouTube poll up and running here. It seems like it had an error before. How close are we to losing our country? Is it already lost? Are we one presidential cycle away, one generation away, or the country will be just fine? We just discussed with Derek, and he called in and said that he thinks that it's already lost, and that we're pushing towards civil war, and the left is pulling away from the right too much and won't stop fighting, and that's the direction we're heading. I'm curious if you think that it's that bleak yourself. So give us a call, 314-241-9797. Let's start with Dan. Dan, thanks for calling the Annie Frey Show. How close are we to losing our country?
Hey, Annie, I love the show. Thanks for having me on. I have a better outlook, I guess, than the prior caller. I understand totally the fears of the left is pulling away and the moral demise of America and all of that. But I kind of look at it as we're a nation that's based on Judeo-Christian principles and the faith. And one thing the right has that the left doesn't have is that faith. And if you don't really believe in anything or strongly support something, they're only going to go so far with their argument and their side of it. I've taught in public schools. I teach middle school social studies now, and I see they're kind of few and far between, but I see conservative kids out there. And when I talk to parents, and there are some parents that are giving that extra education with like the Tuttle Twins books and different things Mark Levin talks about, and different conservatives talked about, and it's hidden. It's like a hidden gem that's out there, but it's there.
Let me ask you this question as an educator, because to me, if you're a freedom-loving, you might be conservative. I'm assuming kind of from our conversation that you are. You have the ability as a social studies teacher in a middle school to impart constitutional thoughts into these kids' discussions when they're, when kids are having these participatory lessons in your classroom. And we see a lot of other influence in the classroom right now. So these kids are under a lot of influence by the people who educate them. I'm wondering if what we hear as civilians, not in the classroom, is there more of a 50-50 groupthink that exists politically in schools right now than just what we hear from the left and libs of TikTok about these people trying to indoctrinate children?
No, at least where I've taught in North County. Now I teach in the city, and I would say it's still 70% left, 30% right, but the part that's right seems to be based on actual thought. Like the speaking with the students, and given they're middle school students, they're actually coming up with thought of their own, and they seem to have a creative process as to where some of the kids that are on the left are just verbatim spitting out what their parents said. And they're like, I don't want to stand for the national anthem because my mom says America's bad. And they're like, what are you talking about? And like those people are kind of, they don't truly believe in what they're saying. They're just, for now,
regurgitating.
Yeah. Right. But you can see that there's a spark in the eye of some of the kids that are just, and some of the teachers, to be honest. There's a lot more right of center teachers than I thought there would be when I started.
Dan, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. It's refreshing to hear that and to know that there is a glimmer of hope, but we do need to participate in it if you want to see it not go the direction it seems to be heading right now. Tom is on the Annie Frey Show. How close are we to losing our country, Tom? What do you think?
We're seeing it right now in front of our eyes, and I know I've only got a short time to talk, so I'm going to cover a lot, but we could see Kim Gardner 2 years ago, and look how long that took for us to see her finally replaced and taken out of office. It's happening right now. So we're already 2 years into this. So it's happening. The way to solve the problem is people have to start praying before and after these conversations. God is part of the answer. It's not burning cities and burning houses, because we're not willing to escalate it to that level that the left and those type of people are escalating it. We're going to put our hands in a T and say, time out, don't burn the house. They're willing to go all the way to cause distress and chaos to get their point across.
So, Tom,
we're not.
Would you say that it's already lost, or we're a presidential election away? How would you feel?
No, it's lost, because you got to think of Kim Gardner and Wesley Bell, all of those politicians that are allowing these people to get away with crime and acts of violence, and they're not getting prosecuted. So we're 2 years behind. So we're 2 years into it.
Tom, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. I look at something like that and I go, but St. Louis did actually do something about it in a super blue area. So I don't know if that's an indication that it's lost for good. I think that it's an indication that we have now suffered the consequences of the symptoms of the problem. But St. Louis did step in and do something about it. So I don't know if everyone feels the same way about that. That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective. Let's go to Robert. Robert, thanks for calling the Annie Frey Show. How close are we to losing our country?
I
kind of going with the one more election, only because if we had lost, if the Democrats had maintained the House and the Senate and the president for these next 2 years, oh my gosh, what they're trying to push through around the court and around, they don't believe in the Constitution that much. So they would have 2 years of total control to continue to push. And if we don't win the White House in the next election, it could be trouble.
Yeah.
They could take that as a sign they could get away with whatever they want.
Robert, thank you for the phone call. One presidential election, he says. John, thank you for calling the Annie Frey Show. What do you think? How close are we to losing our country?
Annie, I guarantee we're within one presidential election. This reminds me as a teenager growing up in the late 70s, early 80s. I remember the turmoil back then. We came out of the Vietnam War, and it was bad at that point. I remember a president on the verge of being impeached, but decided to resign. I remember the Iran hostage crisis, and it seemed like things couldn't get any worse. And it wasn't until Reagan got elected, and I wasn't huge in politics. I was just a teenager. But I remember by the year 83, things finally started turning around, and it looked really good. But I feel like we've kind of gone right back to that same situation where if we don't have the right president in office this next time around, it could be all over.
John, real quick before I let you go, do you think the right president, the right man or woman for the job is currently running for the job?
Oh, God, yes, definitely. I mean, I'll take anybody on the Republican ticket. There's several people that are very well situated where I think they could lead this country with not a problem.
John, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. And I've heard so many analogies, just like what John is saying, to the 70s going into the 80s. And that there was prosperity in this country out of the turmoil. Lauren, thank you for calling this show. How close are we to losing our country?
Hi, Annie. I think we are a generation away. If you look at, a republic and a democracy were built off the Greeks, built off the Romans. A republic has a lifespan, and when you start to decline, you got to restart it. So I don't know what that would look like, how that would be, but I do think we're very, very near to the end.
Do you think that I see parents paying more attention now than they have in a long time due to the pandemic. Do you think that one generation away, that we're maybe pushing the pendulum back to the middle a little bit about what we expect our kids to grow up in and appreciate in this country?
I do, and I'm 23, so I'm kind of a little bit of a whippersnapper in that regard. And I think that, the Gen Z, we're waking up to it, and we're seeing it, and we don't want to, we're different than the millennials. We're a little bit different, and we do see the problem and the need for reform, and that reform is us.
Lauren, great phone call. I appreciate it so much, and thank you for listening. Hannah, you got a Gen Zer out there. She's called herself a whippersnapper, which makes you one as well. Yeah. Good to talk to you, Lauren. Thank you for being out there. Joe, what do you think? Thanks for calling the Annie Frey Show. How close are we to losing our country?
I hate to say this, but I hope and pray that we make it to another election, just because of the media and the amount of money that's being poured in to pay people not to work. And I believe some of this writing, maybe most of it, is being paid for just in order to, get rid of us, the conservatives. And also, they're taking, in addition to our constitutional rights, which is freedom, they're taking away the fun. Have you thought of how many things that are fun are getting smaller or not being done at all, or people are angry because they show their political view, like the NFL, the NBA, and even, as you've seen, the baseball. Mm-hmm. It just seems one thing after another. So if they're not making it too expensive for people that are not of means to go to, then they're also ruining it. Yeah. And that's sad because I think that's one of the biggest reasons, that and the economy, that people are so sad.
Joe, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate it. I was having a conversation this weekend about the aggressive nature of the professional wokesters. They're like hate hobbyists. Their favorite thing to do is to hate people for not being inclusive. It's quite a merry-go-round when you sit there and think about it. Greg, thank you for calling the Annie Frey Show. How close are we to losing our country?
I believe we're about one election away. I got
family and friends that work for the government, from the FBI to Homeland Security, and they all said that upper management, they all need to be gone because it's all political. If they mention something that's going on, they get written up, get chewed out, or transferred or something. And then I also have family members who are teachers. I had my niece worked for the city of St. Louis teaching. She quit because it was all political, all leftist bias on what they had to teach. And she said, I can't do this. This is not the way. She was raised Christian. She quit the school district, got a job outside teaching someplace else in public eye, and then she went and quit that job and got a job working at a Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
And my other niece, she was who was an FBI agent now. She was a teacher. She was teacher of the year down in Mississippi and everything else. She quit teaching and went to the FBI because she's like, oh, I'm going to help change things. And she says that, it's so political now and it's crazy. And if we don't get somebody in there that can change the upper management of all these different alphabet government entities and get people in there who follow the Constitution, we're in deep trouble because
Greg, I got to let you go. I think that the most important thing you're talking about is how people who are of the conservative mindset are feeling very excluded in the positions that they're in. And we need to figure out ways to encourage those people into those positions. But it's a lonely place to be sometimes. And even if there is a silent majority that exists, the minority is so incredibly aggressive. Like I said, they're hate hobbyists, and they get up in the morning looking to ruin someone's day because they're going to virtue signal that those people aren't good enough people. And it doesn't actually materialize in anything because the next day they got to get up and hate again to feed the beast. It's incredibly depressing to watch from afar and especially up close. Troy, thanks for calling the Annie Frey Show. Real quick, how close are we to losing our country?
I'm going to have to go with something with a decade, but I believe a lot of people on here that I'm hearing are already giving up, and I'll never give up. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that won't give up. I think if we do get the right president in there, which he was once before, I think we can get things turned around real quick.
Yeah. Sounds like the guy who you want to take over and have that opportunity. And I do think he kind of said two things there. He said a decade and one presidential cycle. A decade isn't really one of the YouTube options. You can go vote on our YouTube channel, leave your comments there. Hannah's starring them, and we're going to feature your thoughts on this in a little bit. But if we are one presidential cycle away, what's going to really materialize within a decade. So I think he is spot on. Let's go to Brant. Brant, thanks for calling the Annie Frey Show. What do you think? Real quick.
Thank you. Politics is really not the metric. This is a spiritual problem. We need to do more service and ministry. If the church, if the followers of the Lord Jesus Christ would get out and serve their communities, we wouldn't have all these problems in the inner city and so forth. I myself have been involved in Afghan ministry. I speak Dari. We're doing a lot in the Afghan community. We're serving them. The mosque is not doing that. And I think I asked the woke kids, what are you doing for the black community? Is deer in the headlights. Deer in the headlights. Don't know what to say. The BLM, they wear the BLM shirt. What are you doing besides wearing the shirt? Deer in the headlights. But if you ask the average church member, it's the same.
Yeah, that is a tragic truth. I see that. And that's why I go back to what I was kind of alluding to before, is that you'll get this, it's kind of a leftist talking point that, American selfishness and pursuit of success that is usually measured by your checking account or your savings account, that we have so much wealth here and that it's the American way to accumulate as much as you can for yourself and keep it for yourself. The idea of independence and liberty is one that is defined by your relative position to government. And in the United States, the people run the government. The government doesn't run the people. And if you're going to willfully sit by and wait for the government to show up and solve every problem that you have, the number one thing that the government is going to do is create problems that they need to show up to solve. That is a perilous situation. It ends up being tyrannical. And that's the whole point of the United States. That's the thing that we need to preserve. Real quick, Steve, I want to let you get on here and turn on, if you can. It's really noisy there. How close are we to losing our country? What do you think?
I think it's on life support at best. I think it's actually pretty much gone. What we need to do is, everybody's talking about the president. The president's power is very, very limited. We need to get rid of the Congress. Those are the people that need to be changed. We do that, we could be saved. We have the same Congress, we're screwed.
Steve, thank you for that phone call. I think you need both in order to make effective change, but it is not just the president who's going to make and break it. Last call before we have to go. Wiggins America, he's standing in the window staring at me, banging on the door saying, give me my time. So let's get to Michael before we wrap it up here. What do you think? How close are we to losing our country?
I'll tell Wiggins he can wait just a minute. No, thanks, Amy.
I will gladly.
My feeling is this. It's pretty obvious. This next election is going to start the tremendous downfall. Okay, I think it's subjective when you say when is the downfall of America going to start. But think about this: if a Republican wins in the next election, say it's Trump or DeSantis, because I think they'll do exactly to DeSantis what they've done to Trump. I don't care what anybody says. That's the case. If Republicans win, which I doubt because of all the shenanigans going on, but if they do, this country will be thrown upside down in upheaval. You know it will.
Yeah.
And you saw what happened when Trump was in with riots and burning and killings and groups and all this. So either that's going to happen, or if Biden and company get back in, I don't think Biden's running, but if the Democrats get back in, they will push every green, transgender, affirming care. We have to stop they're doing a thing with the fireplaces now in Illinois, gas. They'll do it all. So from that perspective, our liberties and freedom will be gone either way. So if we win, we're going to have to really fight through it for 2 years or so to try to settle down the country and then hope that we can legislatively get this thing turned around. And it's got to start with the law enforcement at the top. Because if we don't get that fixed, we will not have a country.
Man, Michael, thank you. What a great phone call to end on, because I think he's absolutely right. If you think of the turmoil that the country experienced when Donald Trump was in office, I mean, good grief, you could set the pandemic aside. You'd still have a lot of turmoil that existed. If that is being, no pun intended, trumped up when a Republican is in office to try to invoke some sort of level of disarray, it's often leftist groups that are creating, it's pretty much always leftist groups that are creating this type of, city by city by city burning and looting and destruction and protesting. How do you equate that with the person who's in charge? We've got a lot of work ahead of us, but if there's one thing that I hope that we all agree on, the country is worth saving. And it's up to you. It's not up to any politician. Quick break when we come back. All right, Ryan, come in. Wiggins America when we return.
One kid helps pay the rent.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
Going to prison. One just might be president.
The Retirement Advisory Group is partnering with people exactly like you to make sure that your retirement is, in fact, worry-free. When you are looking at who's going to be the next guy, next gal in charge, how is the economy going to move? If you're of that age, that late 50s, early 60s, where you are about to shift out of your career into enjoying retirement, you've been planning on it for decades, you want to make sure that you can breathe that sigh of relief that what you've saved and sacrificed for is going to be there to accommodate the lifestyle that you've been dreaming of living. You've worked hard for it. Now make sure that your money's going to work hard for you. Thomas Helbig, Bob Kershaw, Tammy Kershaw, this family-owned and operated business at the Retirement Advisory Group has been helping 97.1 listeners, Annie Frey Show listeners, exactly like you, get to that place where retirement is truly worry-free. You've earned it. It's their job to make sure you enjoy it. You can call them now for a no-cost, no-obligation retirement review. Get one scheduled today. Mention the Annie Frey Show when you call. 314-993-9494. That's 314-993-9494. Or go online to retirementkey.com.
If you like to work with a local company that gives back to the community, Window World is the preferred window of your St. Louis Blues. Mark Cox here from my friends out at Window World. What a great product. A lifetime warranty. It covers all the parts, the glass breakage, the labor. You've heard me say that before. And they've been around for over 20 years. They have improved the look and the efficiency of over 70,000 homes in the greater St. Louis area. They have the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. That's hard to get, right? And that's important. They're ranked number one in the number of windows sold in the country by Qualified Remodeler magazine. Call them for a free estimate. Let them show you why they say simply the best for less. New doors, new windows. With Window World, they're now offering 18 months, same as cash financing with approved credit. 314-993-1800. That's 314-993-1800. Or you can go online anytime to windowworld.com.
There's always been a lot more riding on Metro Transit than people, like hundreds of careers with competitive pay, training, opportunities for overtime, and real benefits that really benefit your family. But hey, right now, there's even more. A $5,000 signing bonus. We're hiring everyone, from Metro Coloride, Metro Bus, and Metrolink operators to electricians and mechanics. Learn more at workatmetrostl.com and ride on to a real future. Work at metrostl.com.
This is Tom Ackerman. Thank you, St. Louis, for giving more. When you round up for Ronald McDonald House Charities at McDonald's, you provide services to seriously ill children and their families when they need it most. Round Up, a giving program available at St. Louis area McDonald's restaurants where customers can round up to the nearest dollar and donate their additional change to help keep families close. Is anyone surprised that St. Louis has raised over $2.2 million through Roundup for Ronald McDonald House Charities just last year and leads the nation? St. Louis leads the nation with over $5 million raised since 2019 when this program began. The generosity from the St. Louis community. Roundup at McDonald's has allowed Ronald McDonald House to renovate 3 family rooms in local children's hospitals since 2021. More than 27,000 visitors use these rooms each year. Visit them online, rmhcstl.com.
How close are we to losing our country? People have been calling in. If you haven't called in, you'd still like to vote, you can. You can log on to the Andy Frey Show YouTube live chat poll and let us know, is it already lost, one presidential cycle away, one generation away, or the country will be just fine? We'd love to hear it here on July 3rd. It's 12:51. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
You said this is not the song. This is not
No,
right.
I planned all patriotic songs for today, and then this.
Some
is in
people
this
might
stack.
feel really connected to their country when they hear the song.
Oh, geez.
What's more American than a milkshake? Did we invent it? I think we should claim it.
I'm sorry, the shake machine is down.
We invented that.
That is always what we hear.
Wiggins America?
Wiggins America. Monday Roundup. Here we go. So the first story that I've looked up over the weekend is about Hunter Biden and the Bidens in general. Surprise, surprise. What story isn't about Hunter Biden and the Bidens? But this one a little bit different than maybe you've heard so far. White House aides are told that President Biden has 6 grandchildren, leaving out his littlest granddaughter, who is the child of Hunter and a former, say, adult dancer. In a new report.
She also worked in his law office.
Did she?
Pretty sure.
That makes sense because she got a good legal settlement out of it. The report said that aides have been told in strategy meetings over the past few years that President Biden only has 6 grandkids, excluding Hunter's toddler, according to 2 people described as familiar with the situation. This is and this is not just behind the scenes either. Mm-hmm. The president has previously stated publicly that he only has 6 grandchildren. Just seems like a bit of a surprise to me that you would not even acknowledge the existence of a child that everybody already knows exists. And they just say,
it's
no,
legally perilous, though.
You don't.
Because if they were to, and especially at the beginning, accept this child as a Biden, I mean, he was trying to fight so that he wouldn't have to pay child support. You can't be like, that's my grandbaby, and be like, in court, like, I don't know nothing.
Yeah, but that's already passed now. I mean, they've already settled.
Yeah.
The
But
paternity test revealed
I'm just
it.
saying they're being consistent, and I am really shocked at all the Republicans who are expecting the Biden family to now be very moralistic about an issue such as this.
I guess we just hoped that since we all knew that it was true, that they would say, okay, now that the paternity test shows it.
In case anybody wanted to know, she's a former stripper at the Empire Gentlemen's Club in D.C. I think I read somewhere, maybe it was in one of Hunter Biden's many emails and texts that I read, that maybe he got her a job. I don't know. Anyway.
At the club?
No.
He probably has close connections there, so
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible.
Yeah.
But not to my knowledge.
He says that he has no memory of even meeting her.
Is that unbelievable?
However, I kind of believe that's the most
That's
believable
the most
part
likely,
of the story.
Yeah, that's the most likely scenario here.
Yeah. All right.
Again.
Once again.
Lots of whips for that story.
Yep. Massachusetts man is finally cashing in after winning $3 million in the lottery.
Good for him.
But the ticket was allegedly stolen by this clerk.
Bad for him.
Who sold it to him. But it's a little more dicey than that. When you read this, you go, oh, okay. So the clerk stole the ticket after selling it. But here's the way it happens. In January, Paul Little decided to test his luck purchasing a lottery ticket at Lakeville Liquor Store in Massachusetts. However, despite buying the ticket, he accidentally left it behind after leaving the store. So it wasn't as if she just grabbed the thing and pocketed it. Sometime after leaving the store, the diesel engine mechanic went to look at his ticket but couldn't find it, leading him to believe that he lost it. Prosecutors pursuing charges against the clerk say that 45 minutes after Little, is his name, left the store, another customer noticed he left without the ticket and gave it to the clerk, who then pocketed it, according to the New York Post.
And then it won $3 million.
Later that evening, it hadn't even won yet, so she pocketed it before it even won. Later that evening, the numbers on the ticket were called, making it the key to a $3 million prize.
What a conundrum.
Isn't that crazy?
I'm pretty sure that you have to give that ticket to the winner, but that if you were to return the ticket, that you should definitely you should find the person who picked it up and gave it to the clerk and give them some money and the clerk.
No kidding.
Anyway.
Yeah, because if you find a ticket, to me, that's like, well, who actually owns it at that point? Because if you can find the original owner, then I guess you have to say, yes, this belongs to you. But I don't blame the clerk for being like, well, I'll stick it in my pocket. Nobody's claiming the ticket. However, she was prosecuted for it. All right, last one. In December of 2020, California mom influencer Katie Sorensen took to her social media account to relay a harrowing tale of attempted kidnapping.
Oh, I heard about this.
In a video posted at the time of the incident to her social media account, Sorensen had said that there was a couple following her around a store and gave her the heebie-jeebies after commenting on her children, because they said something about her children, she says. And then Sorensen, the influencer, added that they weren't clean cut and that she remained silent because she was paralyzed with fear. She claimed the couple continued to hover in her vicinity as she left the store and put her kids into the car in the parking lot, but that they drove away after she shouted for help. I think I remember this original story, actually. But eventually, an arrest was made in this case. In 2021, Sorensen herself was taken into custody after police determined that her claims were resoundingly contradicted by the accused couple, as well as store video that was obtained. And the couple that Sorensen accused told the paper of record there that they believe the allegation from Sorensen were racially motivated, as they were Latino. I, however, believe, just based on what I've read here, that she was click motivated. I mean, she's making up a story. I think she got a lot of attention for this.
Yeah.
Now, maybe there was a racial component too, don't know. But her motivation, I doubt, was, I'm going to make these people look like criminals. It was to get clicks and influence and get more views herself. This is the downside of social media. I mean, one of the many is that you just don't know when these stories are told how true they are by these influencers.
Mm-hmm.
How many photos have we seen recently that you're like, that person's not even like in the place that they said they were?
Well, yeah, you'll see stories like this one that you just told, but you'll also see the flip side of that where people want to make sure that they're filmed while they're like doing something nice for somebody on the subway or something like that. And it's just, like you said, all for clicks.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Steve Moore is going to talk to us a little bit about the economy. Manufacturing is incredibly down. Did you know that? Plus, Jim Carafano is going to talk to us about what the heck is going on in France. And I'll mention the border visit with him as well. 1 o'clock hour headed your way. Don't go on.
Hi, this is Brian with Velocity Home Buyers, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-782-3333. I can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. I buy houses in any condition and any price range in the St. Louis area. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy more. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that needs updating, but you don't have the time or money for it? Great, because I love buying outdated houses. I buy vacant houses, job relocation houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at 314-782-3333. That's 314-782-3333.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio. 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Police are asking again for the public's help. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. This as the search continues for at least 2 suspects in the mass shooting during a block party in Baltimore. 2 people were killed, 30 were shot in all, and 3 remain in critical condition.
We need the help of our residents and anyone that knows anything to come forward and say something so that we can bring those who are recklessly carrying out acts of violence like this to justice.
Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott also urging people to think of those around them and the lives that could be impacted by a wrong choice as a holiday weekend continues. Also a deadly weekend in Chicago with 3 people killed in several shootings.
Murders across the city included neighborhoods like Englewood, where the gun violence is common, and areas like River North, where the gun violence is becoming more common.
Fox's Mike Tobin. In all, 27 people were shot, including a 5-year-old girl. Chicago also got hit with flash flooding, shutting down parts of interstate highways and local roads.
NASCAR had to cut short a long-anticipated street race, and forecasters were advising people to stay home and off streets unless absolutely necessary. Water management officials in Chicago were asking people not to add wastewater to the backup systems, meaning don't bathe, don't do laundry or dishes during the storm. Northern Illinois forecast today suggests much drier weather.
Fox's Evan Brown. More storms also in the forecast, though, from the southern plains to the northeast after severe weather yesterday, blamed for at least 2 deaths in St. Louis. 2 PGA officials agree to testify before Congress about the proposed merger with the Saudi-backed Live Tour.
Ron Price, CEO of the PGA Tour, and board member Jimmy Dunn will both speak on Capitol Hill next Tuesday.
Fox's Jared Max. 2 U.S. senators say Live officials have declined to appear at that subcommittee hearing. America is listening to Fox News.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go: shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
A pretty quiet Monday afternoon, partly sunny skies, just a tiny chance of a spot thunderstorm. Let's not worry about it. We should peak at about 92. Tonight, partly to mostly clear skies, 69 for the overnight low. Check out that big, bright, full moon of July all night long. Tuesday, the 4th of July, partly sunny. Again, a very limited spot afternoon storm. Don't worry about it. It's hot, though, 95. This is 97.1 FM Talk, Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
97.1 FM Talk. You're here, which means you've made at least one great decision today. St. Louis is home for conservative talk. This is 97.1 FM Talk.
Buying and selling homes on the Illinois side of the river is made easy when you work with Jen Teske and RE/MAX Alliance. Jen Teske, Teske, is a friend of mine, and she is so good at what she does. As soon as you meet her, I mean, I'm seriously telling you this, spend 15 seconds with her, and you're like, okay, I get it. I understand this now. She is a fireball of energy to help you get your house sold for top dollar in the context that you need it to be sold, which means if you were trying to sell your house yesterday and you are not being successful in doing so, you call 618-541-1010 or text 618-541-1010 and get Jen Teske on your side. You're going to get that house sold. If you are somebody who's thinking about selling it in the next year or so, you get Jen Teske and RE/MAX Alliance and the amazing team that Jen Teske brings along. You're going to get that house sold with a team that you're going to miss once you get that process done and taken care of. She is fantastic. I trust her, and I know that you'll love her as well. 618-541-1010, online at jenteskehomes.com.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield ceramic coating.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago, and they were very cooperative on getting us the right paint. They were in and out and done in no time. Once it was finished, looked great. We were very happy with it.
The main reason Rick called Rhino Shield is because it's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty.
We've watched a lot of people get their house painted 3 or 4 times, and we haven't had to do any of it. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to paint it every 5-7 years.
Take a tip from Rick and put down the paintbrush and call Rhino Shield for your free evaluation. 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO. Or visit 877-25rhino.com.
We got Rhino Shield 18 years ago. Financially makes sense, especially if it's going to last like this did. Still looks great.
Call now. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
No pain, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Human trafficking is occurring right here in Missouri. You can help combat it by learning the signs of human trafficking and reporting suspicious activity to law enforcement. Victims may appear malnourished, show signs of mental or physical abuse, or avoid social interaction. If you're a victim or know someone who needs help, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text the word HELP to Be Free. Together, we can fight human trafficking in Missouri.
Brought to you by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
This hour of the Annie Frey Show is brought to you by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what you're talking about.
That's us, that's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
We're seeing extraordinarily low unemployment, some of the most job creation under any president ever. We're seeing, by the way, with that also unusually high rates of job satisfaction. We've seen inflation falling. We've seen manufacturing returning to the U.S. Now, obviously, a lot of effort and a lot of money goes into negativity to try to get people focusing on other things, like some of the things that we're talking about in the culture wars that certain figures are bringing to the fore again and again, I think because they don't want to talk about the economic work that they're doing.
Transportation Secretary, who probably has some flight issues that he should be addressing right now, saying that dissatisfaction that people might be feeling right now when it comes to Bidenomics, there's a lot of effort and money that goes into making you feel negatively about the way things are in this country right now. That's quite a political position to take. Steve Moore joins us once again, distinguished fellow in economics at Heritage Foundation and author of the book, Govzilla, How the Relentless Growth of Government is Devouring Our Economy and Our Freedom. Steve, money and effort going into making people feel negatively. I think a lot of people feel negatively, and they're not even on the receiving end of that paid-for motivation.
Well, look, I think that, Eddie, good to be with you, by the way. Happy 4th of July.
Yep.
I think that the jobs are out there, no question about it. So you've got to, applaud this jobs market. It's been very healthy, and there are people who want to work. There are jobs out there. So that's the good news of the story. The bad news of the story, and the reason 70% of Americans feel like the economy is going in the wrong direction, is guess what? Because they're not keeping up. Their paychecks are just not keeping up with the rising prices. And so we estimate the average family has lost, depending on the circumstance, somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000 of income, whereas under Trump, the average family gained $6,000 in income. So that's quite a reversal.
Yeah, I think that Americans feel that without even having to turn on the television. They understand the direction this is heading.
Of course.
How do you?
Doesn't matter what you say or I say or CNBC says or MSNBC or CNN. People know what their bank account is, right? They know what they're spending. They know what they're bringing in, and they're feeling what I call a middle class squeeze.
Yeah.
And of course, the lower the income, the more people are really being hurt by this because inflation is a regressive tax. Now, the good news is inflation is also coming down a bit, and let's hope that continues. The Fed is now saying they might have to raise interest rates another 2 times, which would be amazing given the fact that, they've already raised interest rates 10 times since Biden came into office to accommodate all his spending. And so what you're seeing, and here's the thing that really bothers me and really worries me as an economist, people are spending as much as they used to spend, but they're not making as much money. So what do you think they're doing, Annie? They're borrowing.
Yeah.
They're paying. They're running up their credit card, and then you have to pay interest rates, sometimes at 15 to 20% on your credit card. And then you get into a loop where you can't afford to. I think maybe everybody's waiting for Joe Biden to declare a loan forgiveness on credit card debt.
I was thinking about that after the Supreme Court came down with their ruling, and there were a lot of people reacting about the perceived unfairness, of course, of some people getting $20,000 and some people not. Pretty soon we're just going to have a $20,000 debt forgiveness from the government. Just apply it to whatever you want.
And that'll be good for me because I got a mortgage right now. I'm having trouble paying that. I wonder if they're going to pay my mortgage. They're going to pay my credit card debt. They're going to pay my, student loan. I mean, who's going to ever pay their bills anymore? This is a recipe for economic disaster. And it basically, what they're doing is they're basically creating this, what the left believes in is not, what you and I and advocates of the free enterprise system and freedom believe in is, that everybody should have equal opportunity to prosper, and that you should, if you make it, you should be able to, enjoy the rewards of that. And that's what wealth creation is all about. What the left wants to do is just redistribute all the income, right? And if you start redistributing everything, then guess what? Nobody produces anything, and we all go to the poorhouse.
Economics expert at Heritage Foundation, Steve Moore, with us right now. How do you have a situation where you, as you led off with, the jobs market is doing well. If you want a job, you can get a job. How do you reconcile that positive part of the economy right now with the rest of the growing debt? How do you have both of those things at the same time?
Well, let's be clear about something. Joe Biden gave this speech, trying to put lipstick on the pig of this economy and saying, oh, look at all the jobs we created. Guess what? 95% of those jobs were just the business is reopening from when we shut them down during COVID. That's not creating a job. It's like saying, somebody takes a sick day and then they come back the next day and you say, I just created a job. I mean, that's ridiculous. And so, the idea that Joe Biden's created these millions of jobs is really quite pathetic, I think. And I don't think anybody really believes that. So.
I'm reading an article from Bloomberg, and it says says U.S. factory activity contracted for an 8th month in June, slipping to the weakest level in more than 3 years as production, employment, and input prices retreated. What do you make of this U.S. factory contraction? And I would assume that when these things happen, the consequences are not felt always immediately, but down the line.
Yeah, look, I don't want to. I'm not rooting against the American economy, and I think there's a real resilience to American businesses. And even with all the lead weights that the Biden administration is putting around the ankles of American employers, they're still finding a way to stay open and to employ people. So we'll see. I'm not one of these economists that say, "Oh, we're headed to a recession." I think we can get through this, and I hope we can. But boy, tell me one thing that Biden has done on the economy that's been helpful. All they're doing is writing big checks and borrowing trillions of dollars. And, it's the same thing as you and I. When we borrow and borrow and borrow, it feels good when you've got all the money, and then you have to pay it back, and then it doesn't feel so good.
One of the things that Joe Biden said in his speech after he came out and spoke after the student loan Supreme Court ruling was leveled, that his debt forgiveness from the executive office was not a constitutionally legal thing to do, is he said that due to the Supreme Court's reaction and due to it being canceled, that the congressional Republicans were going and stealing this money from these American people who wanted to have this student loan relief, that the congressional Republicans were taking this money from these people, and he was articulating how bad that was. Does President Biden have the intellectual capacity to understand that his plan was stealing money from the American taxpayer to give it to these people who were going to receive it? Or is that just something that they're relying on politically, voters to just be sad in the moment and vote in favor of them? Because that student loan forgiveness came down right before the midterm election.
Yeah, well, I have a couple of reactions to the Supreme Court decision. Obviously it was rightly decided. No matter what your position is on student loan debt, the president, he was using COVID emergency authority to do this. Well, COVID ended 2 years ago, Joe. You're not can you imagine if Donald Trump had basically tried to do this? They would have said, oh my God, he's a tyrant. He's trying to be a dictator. No president, by the way, in modern times has been slapped down more by the Supreme Court than this president. Did you know that? I mean, he's trying to assert all of these and usurp all of these rights from the American people and from Congress, and the courts keep slapping him down. Now, that's point number one. Point number two, isn't it amazing? Nobody in Congress, and almost nobody in Congress, and the White House certainly don't want to save any money. So thank God for the Supreme Court. They saved us $400 billion on Friday with that Supreme Court decision that says, no, you can't spend all this money without authorization. So thank you to the courts. And most of those were, or half of them were Trump appointees who I think were just basically upholding the Constitution. And finally, I've talked about this before week after week. Why should people get student loan relief? I mean, why? What's the logic of this? That these are people who took out and they signed the dotted line. They agreed to take out a loan and repay it. I bet most of your listeners who've done that, they, honorably repaid the loan. And now we're saying, oh, guess what? You don't have to repay the loan. Who in the future is ever going to repay a student loan?
Yeah. And why would you lend money
if you do it?
Yeah.
Exactly. So this will be the ruination of the student loan program if Biden is able to do this. And the other thing is, look, you're there in St. Louis. I've spent time at the College of the Ozarks there, and they don't have tuition because the kids work for their education. What a concept to have a 22 or 23-year-old actually having to work while they go to school. But why should that cost be put on the back of the taxpayers? If anybody's going to pay for the outrageous amounts of money that these universities are charging, it should be the universities themselves.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And this cultural gimme mentality that they've worked really hard to cultivate with young people really matches up with the "we'd really like to give you everything if you vote for us" political policy of the left.
This is just buying votes. This is what third world countries do, to win elections. They just give away and pass out money before the election. That's exactly what's happening here, unfortunately. And I don't think the American people really believe that this is a wise policy. And, look, if we have to stretch out the payments, maybe fine, but everybody should have to repay their loans.
Yeah, it's absolutely. It's probably one of the best educations they'll receive, ironically, out of taking that loan out and going to college. Steve Moore, thank you.
There you go.
Love speaking with you.
Have a great 4th, guys.
Yep. Happy Independence Day. Bye. Bye-bye. Steve Moore, Distinguished Fellow in Economics at the Heritage Foundation. You can follow him on Twitter at Stephen Moore. He's the Stephen with a PH, the refined Stephen. I really can't stress enough how much this cultural, self-centered mentality of this, it's entitlement. That's really the summation of what we were speaking about there. But the understanding that you should be provided things and not have to work for them. to say that, people say healthcare is a right. And I think that you can constitutionally argue against the fact that healthcare, to the extent that the left is trying to push it, is an actual right. And what you have to do is understand that you have to have a society where people are working towards earning these things. You go to work, you get provided health care. If a company or a corporation isn't providing good health care along with the benefits that they're providing their employees, then you call them out for it. If they don't change it, you go work for somebody else and you achieve the health care that is being provided for you. It is that currently it's tied with an employer, wouldn't necessarily have to be tied with an employer, but we have such competition restrictions in the way our healthcare system is managed. It becomes very difficult. The idea that the things that we need, the roof over our head, the food that we eat, that these are all things that should just inherently be provided, takes away the incentive that any human being should have to provide for themselves. If you don't have needs that you have to provide for yourself, why would you go out and provide them for yourself? The human condition is not one of hard work and determination. The human condition is usually one of apathy if people are allowed to their own devices. All of that to be said, you're going to have situations where people are, I would say, obstacles that are put in place of individuals that are not of their own making, that we should clear for individuals, because opportunity should be able to be pursued by any American. If you are here, if you are living in this country, you should have opportunity in front of you to make of it whatever you wish. And in pursuit of that opportunity, you're likely going to fail along the way to your inevitable success if you continue to pursue it. And if the government needs to be there, I'll use the example of a mother who chooses to have a baby that was out of a circumstance that maybe traditionally they would not have wanted to have that baby. And in this country, you can have the choice to abort that child. If you choose to have that baby, I think that you should have a support system that steps up and provides you the elements you need in order to create a successful life for that child. We have so many nonprofits that are in positions to do that. Vitae Foundation is working hard to connect those women who may be abortion determined to a provider that will give them scientific medical information that shows them what is in existence here. And then also help them through the pregnancy and also help them after the child is born. And sometimes that's going to involve community support through taxpayer-funded subsidies. I get that. I understand that. We need to be in a position where we are helping people with a hand up, not a handout, and we don't have that mentality. There are going to be places where your tax dollars are going to come together with your neighbor's tax dollars to provide yourself something that you couldn't provide on your own. You need to lock arms with your neighbors and with your fellow citizens in order to make something like that happen. Those are conversations that need to take place in a political world every single day. But the idea that everything is going to be provided to you and you have a right to exist without having to contribute anything to the equation is un-American. And we need to get back to the idea of some personal accountability and responsibility, knowing that not everybody will be able to meet those expectations due to whatever circumstances might exist, and then having conversations on those case-by-case situations. It is interesting to look at the direction this country is going, though, in so many different facets, which is why our YouTube poll today is, how close are we to losing our country? Is it already lost? Is there one presidential cycle away from losing our country? Are we one generation away? Or the country will be just fine? Everybody calm down. If you go to the Annie Frey YouTube channel and you're watching us there, you can vote in the YouTube live chat. Leave a comment. Hannah is setting those aside. We're going to feature some of those here before we wrap up this hour. And we always give the results and highlight your comments at 2:45. When we return, Jim Carafano is going to join us. He's going to tell us what's been going on in France. I'm also going to ask him to comment on, some of the things that I experienced at the southern border, what his thoughts are on it. You're in the right place. Happy Independence Day Eve. Thanks for being with us today. Jim Carafano on the Annie Frey Show when we come back.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
AirComfortService.com is the website. If you are not having an air conditioner that works for you right now, if your comfort zone isn't happening, if the air conditioner is blowing air into your house, but the temperature is not coming down, it might be blazing hot outside, but you need to make sure that air conditioner is working properly inside. Air Comfort Service will step in and help make that be the case. Carrier Cool Cash rebates have been extended until July 31st. Don't wait to schedule your free estimate right now. You reach out to them at 314-513-0091, and you can schedule that free estimate when you call. They also provide commercial repairs, and I want to make sure that I mention this in this conversation about the residential help that you can get from the people at Air Comfort Service, because when the air outside is so hot, if you require on your office to be up in order to do business, Air Comfort Service is there to make sure that your comfort zone is easily attained each and every day. If you're looking at a steep repair bill right now, if you're questioning the quoted repair that you've already gotten, Air Comfort Service will give you a second opinion free. 314-513-0091. 314-513-0091. Online at aircomfortservice.com.
For more than a century, AM radio has evolved to meet the needs of our community. More than 80 million listeners depend on AM radio each month. AM radio is also the backbone of the emergency alert system, which keeps us safe in dangerous times. It's reliable, free, and public safety depends on it. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely on advertisements.
We are Onder Law, your St. Louis legal powerhouse. Auto accidents, work injuries, pharmaceutical litigations, we do it all.
Onder Law Personal Injury Lawyers. Visit getjim.com.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. This summer, try some eco-friendly water sports like paddleboarding, swimming, or diving. When we each share our one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
Men, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE? The medical providers at Paramount Men's Medical Center offer breakthrough treatments that eliminate problems in the bedroom without pain or surgery. 98% of men see instant results on their first office visit. Listen to a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Paramount Men's Medical Center offers breakthrough medical treatments that eliminate ED and PE. Men are even lasting 90 minutes or longer, regardless of age or medical history.
But that's not all. For a limited time only, call Paramount Men's Medical Center now, and your initial consultation and first treatment are completely free. You'll see instant results right in the office. You'll even get a gift that enhances your performance in the bedroom. All this, worth hundreds of dollars, is free if you call now. 314-720-8081. 314-720-8081. That's 314-720-8081.
If you need a new bath or shower, call my friends at Bath Fitter of St. Louis. Mark Cox here. We love our new shower and tub enclosure. It looks fantastic. No demolition, no mess, and a lifetime guarantee. Right now, they're having a sale for 20% off up to $1,000 or zero interest until 2028. That's 5 years. Call 636-338-1648. That's 636-338-1648. Bath Fitter of St. Louis.
For a hole in your roof or a whole new roof, Frederick Roofing.
Over 90,000 satisfied customers since 1929. Frederick Roofing, 314-645-2000.
Mark Cox here. If you're nearing retirement or already retired, call my friends Thomas Helbig and Bob Kershaw with the Retirement Advisory Group. They'll show you how to link to the market without the risk. They're the official financial advisors of my show. Go online to retirementkey.com.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is hiring licensed journeymen. Don't have a journeyman license? Air Comfort Service will help you get it. Get guaranteed hours year-round and more. Apply online at aircomfortservice.com.
The Mark Reardon Show.
Hope you had a great holiday weekend, but we will be here on the Mark Reardon Show on Monday afternoon. St. Charles County Executive Steve Ellman says he's not going to run for re-election. He'll join us.
Weekdays from 3 to 6.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show. Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
slipping into the future. I wanna fly like an eagle.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. I'm happy to be with you on this Independence Day Eve. Thanks for joining us. Today's YouTube live chat poll on the Annie Frey YouTube channel. How close are we to losing our country? Is it already lost? Are we one presidential election away? Are we one generation away? Or will the country is going to be just fine? It's that simple. Go on there and vote and tell me what you think. Can you highlight some of the comments so far that we have seen?
Yes, Jerry from our Facebook page says that we are one generation away or less.
One generation or less.
Yes.
That's what Jerry says. All right. Well, we appreciate your feedback. So give us a comment and go vote in the YouTube live chat poll. I'd like to ask Jim Carafano that question.
Jim Carafano,
These are dangerous times.
Vice President for Foreign and Security Policy at Heritage.
So, Jim, every day we do a YouTube live chat poll, and today's is how close are we to losing our country? It's something I hear from voters, listeners quite a bit. Do you think that that's a question filled with rhetoric? What are your thoughts?
Look, you know me, I'm the eternal optimist. America's a 50-50 country. And so this notion that I think, elections in this country make enormous difference. That's why we've had this huge shifts in red and blue states. And so I don't think anybody can say anybody owns this country, because this is actually, and having traveled all over the world, one of the most politically dynamic nations in the world, where when people get energized, voters move where this country goes. And to me, this is healthy. This is not a sign of a nation in decline, but a nation that's fighting for its future. So I'm the happy dude here.
I think that sometimes if you kind of peek around the globe, you see that we're not the only country that seems to have problems. We do talk about our problems quite a bit, which is a First Amendment flex, I would say, on our own part. I want to talk to you about France. I want to talk to you about Israel. I want to talk to you about things that are taking place around the world right now that seem to be getting a lot of attention on social media. What should people know?
So France is really interesting. I think and I've been unpacking this for several days and talking to people. I think what's very interesting to me is the difference between what's happening in France now and what we experienced a few years ago with the mass violence in the U.S. I would argue that what we saw in the United States a couple of years ago was rooted in political organized violence, that this was organized and sustained by an actual infrastructure. And there was a real divergence between the right and the left. Politicians and leaders on the right were appalled by this and were against it. And the leadership on the left was tolerant, made excuses, or, people like Kamala Harris actually were bailing people out of jail. This is different what's going on in France. I don't think what we're seeing in France is organized in the sense that there's a large political infrastructure like Black Lives Matter or Antifa, that this is much, much more organic. And what's interesting is politically, both the right and the left are unhappy. The right is, let's put this down, let's arrest people, let's put them in jail. The left doesn't like the riots, but they have absolutely no way they're just clueless how to deal with it. So I think France is a very different country than the United States. They do have a problem with assimilation, not a problem with immigration. I think we conflate those two, right? Just because you have people moving into your country doesn't necessarily mean that's an issue. But France has never assimilated people well. And it's not about money, because the leftist government in France has thrown all kinds of money and nothing has happened. It's much like when we've seen leftist cities in America where people throw all kinds of money at stuff and things are worse off than when they started. The ruling party in France does not know how to deliver basic goods and services to its people. And that's the root of a lot of the frustration. And they also seem completely incapable of delivering public safety, which is a huge issue. And not all this is happy talk. This, the protesting and none of it's. I mean, thousands of vehicles destroyed, thousands of buildings destroyed. There's a large root of anti-Semitism in a lot of these attacks, and anti-Catholic people as well. So these are very ugly, very widespread. And when you ask the question about are we better off in America today? Yeah, we are, because honestly, when Antifa and BLM turned off the spigot because Democrats got elected, so everything was fine. And when you actually looked at the end of the day, what did they actually do? They just took basically many tens of millions of dollars and just spent it on nonsense, right?
Yeah.
That's not where it was not the American people that were greatly outraged. It was these political organizations. In France, a lot of people are angry at the government for a lot of reasons, and it's a symbol of a really poorly run country.
Well, we've seen a lot of the videos and stuff that are coming through social media and some of the news reports. I know for a fact, being here in St. Louis when the Ferguson riots were taking place, that you would have thought in some cases that the entire city of St. Louis was burning. We knew where it was confined to. It was terrible. It was bad. But understanding the reality of the situation versus the perception of the situation, how big of a deal is it? What's going on in France right now?
Well, what's different in France is that the violence and the riots are pretty widespread, and it is in urban and both rural areas. So it is a lot more diverse than what we saw in the U.S. And the other thing that's really interesting is look at what's going on in Europe today. Center-right governments, despite the war and inflation, the economy and energy prices, have actually proven pretty resilient and are actually doing pretty well. And countries like Spain, which have an election coming up in July, are shifting to conservatives. And my read on that, having spent a lot of time there, is that these center-right governments have kind of listed to the populist rhetoric about, hey, deliver basic goods and services for the people. And they're doing very, very well. France, first of all, the government is badly divided, poorly led, and the leadership is very leftist, and there isn't a strong center right movement in France. There's a far right movement in France, which is very divided, and so again, what we're seeing is that governments that listen to their people and respond in Europe are doing pretty well, and the ones that aren't, like France, are having these troubles. Where do we see that in the U.S.? We don't see this in Texas. We don't see this in Florida. We don't see this in Tennessee, right? We don't see this in Arkansas. I mean, these places are doing pretty well. And the reason for that is governments are actually delivering on the basic bread and butter issues that their voters want.
Yeah, it makes an incredible difference. We're speaking with the Vice President for Foreign and Security Policy at the Heritage Foundation, Jim Carafano. One last question before we let you probably get on to your Independence Day holiday celebrating. Brad and I, my producer and I, went to the border last week, and we were in Hidalgo, Texas, and went to the McAllen area and looked at the border wall and stood next to the Rio Grande and got to see a firsthand experience of what's going on down there. And I think one of the things that shocked me the most is how much of an operation is in place to just funnel these people in and get them through. It's the problem. They can't, these Americans on the north side of the border can't sustain their communities doing anything else because it's become part of their system. And the number of people that are here in this country now, I'm looking at this problem and then the politics, which is what I'm usually steeped in. I don't see any possible way where a compromise can come together where there isn't citizenship being, and I'm not saying I support it, but the politicians are so far apart in such a shallow way on this issue that we're either going to continue to have this influx of people because we can't get anything done, or there are going to be some incredibly painful compromises made by both parties.
I don't think people are up for compromises because here's the problem. The compromise sounds like, okay, let's just cut the spigot off and we'll give everybody whatever and we'll move on. That never works. It never works. So it's not a compromise. What it is the acceptance of defeat. The reality is, and Donald Trump proved this, you can secure the border, you can deport people, you can make this all work. And this notion about somehow we have to reward people, if you reward people for illegal immigration, you will be right back where you started. Again, I was in Spain. Spain did 5 consecutive amnesties in a row.
Ugh.
To shut off illegal immigration. And you know what happened? Every time they wound up with more illegal immigration than they did before.
And
basically what they did is they stopped doing amnesties. They stopped doing mass importation of illegal immigrants. And again, this is not immigration. What Biden is doing is kind of creating the France problem, right? Massive illegal immigration, no plan for assimilation. This doesn't work. And I know the numbers are big, but there's also 330 million people in America. It's not a number that's big enough to say we just have to throw up our hands and accept what Biden did. Because you know what? If you do that, if you make that compromise, you go ahead. And the next time a Democratic president's elected, they're going to do exactly the same thing, and they're going to expect you to cave exactly like you did before. And at some point, the numbers will be so big and so overwhelming that there is no way back.
Yeah. You don't think we're at that point, though, yet? The numbers being so big that there's no way back?
No, of course not. But we will be if we keep doing this for like 8. If we just do this as a perpetual policy, at some point Americans will be a minority in their own country and they will cease ownership of it. But that's not a 1-year problem or a 2-year problem. That's a 4 or 5 or a 6-year problem or a 10-year problem. And the only way you can ensure that future is, look, we have got to go back. I mean, there is no other. I mean, some things you just have to do. You have a disease, you take antibiotics. That's just the way it is. You have to secure the border. You have to deport people. It's just that simple. There is no other way to do this and not just wind up right back where you started.
Is Congress
I've only dealt with this issue for 25 years. I'm telling you, this is what's going to happen.
Is Congress as big of a factor in succeeding here as the presidency is? I mean, everybody always is super infatuated with the presidential race, but does Congress play as big of a role?
Congress plays a huge role here. And what's really powerful is, you have to control the House, the Senate, and the White House, and have leadership that's committed, and you can do this. And it can be done. And look, we've had every possible combination. The thing is you assume that people would say, okay, let's just do this. We've had every possible combination of Republican and Democrat, control the House, control the Senate, whatever, and they've never been able to forge a compromise. This is one of those issues where the answer is not to meet in the middle. This is one of those issues where somebody is right and somebody is wrong.
Ooh, principles. I like it. Jim Carafano, that's why we have you on. Thank you for your insight on that. We look forward to talking to you each week.
Good being with you.
You as well. Bye-bye. Jim Carafano is the Vice President for Foreign and Security Policy at the Heritage Foundation. It is difficult to sit there and think, no, there's a right and there's a wrong here, and we need to stand by what is right. What that involves is persuading enough people to say, you're absolutely correct on that. And we need to empower the people to represent us in our elected government to enact what is right over what is wrong. I guess right now, maybe I lack the confidence that the American people will see and look deeply enough into this issue to represent themselves that way. But maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I am. Let's take a quick break. We'll get the crew back in here. More Annie Frey Show right here on 97.1 FM Talk, the Odyssey app, the Annie Frey YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us. We're glad you're here. Back in a minute.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show on St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
Time keeps on slipping into the future.
Michael's Flooring Outlet online at igotfloored.com. Have you been shopping for flooring? I want you to check out Michael's Flooring Outlet this holiday week. If you have a flooring purchase in your near future, they have all the different types of flooring that you might need. Different finishes, different looks, different ways to achieve the same kind of look. If you're going for a nice hardwood look, maybe getting rid of the carpet that's in your house, there's laminate, there's luxury vinyl planks, there's waterproof flooring as well. If you're looking in a bathroom and you want some natural stone or tile or glass tile, they've got it for you at Michael's Flooring Outlet. You can splash into summer with new flooring by shopping online at igotfloored.com right now. You can request an estimate there as well. Michael's Flooring Outlet is a family-owned and operated business, and they are there to make sure that you're accommodated with great quality products, with the best value in the business, and with a customer sales staff that can help you navigate the shopping experience, whether you're looking at other places first or want to compare prices, or if you've just started the entire process. You can go to Michael's Flooring Outlet and be confident you're going to get treated appropriately. Find them online at igotfloored.com.
When I met little Ruthie in 2010, she was just 5 years old. She wasn't eating much, she had no school to go to, and she didn't know who Jesus was. In December of 2023, Ruthie will be joining 12 others in the first graduating class of Bethlehem Christian Academy in Zambia, Africa. Hi, my name is Martin Winslow, founder and president of BCA. When you support a child like Ruthie through BCA, you get to join us in being the hands and feet of Jesus. Our mission is dedicated to transforming lives by feeding and educating poor and orphan children in some of the poorest places in Africa and South Asia. BCA's ministry not only provides physical bread to these kids, but also spiritual bread through the Word of God. For just $36 a month, you can help a child have a hope of a better future, but more importantly, give them the opportunity to learn about Christ. You can also join us on a mission trip. In fact, many will be joining me this upcoming December to watch Ruthie receive her diploma. To find out more about how you can help children like Ruthie, please visit bcaministries.com. That's bcaministries.com.
Surprise! Surprise! You know, surprise parties, they can be fun, right? Well, financial surprises, not so much, especially when you're retired, like finding out you owe more in taxes than you thought you would, or having to go back to work to make ends meet. Maybe you think you'll be okay, but why not double check just to be sure? Call Marvin Mitchell at Compass Retirement Solutions and schedule a retirement double check. Marvin and his team have been helping families plan for retirement for more than 15 years. Call 314-373-1598 to schedule your retirement double check with Marvin Mitchell at Compass Retirement Solutions. That's 314-373-1598. Don't let a financial surprise derail your retirement dreams. Give Marvin and the team a call, 314-373-1598. Firm offers insurance services, investments, and services offered through Compass Retirement Group, a registered investment advisory in Missouri and in Illinois.
Hey guys, Glover here from my friends at ThrottleNet. So I'm so very proud to have represented the guys at ThrottleNet for all of these years. They are the IT geniuses. George and Mike are the owners. Fantastic guys. They can do all of your IT. They can do a portion of your IT. They have the best Apple support team. Their response time is under 2 minutes. Think about that, under 2 minutes. Something goes sideways with your IT, and they are solving your problem. And they're solving your problem within 2 minutes. Now, let's talk about cybersecurity. Most companies in St. Louis don't have cyber liability insurance. You get hit, you're on the hook, you're probably out of business. With ThrottleNet, if we represent you, we protect you. The first $500,000 that someone hits you for, which isn't going to happen, but if it does, we pay it. $500,000, that's what you're covered for with ThrottleNet. Go to throttlenet.com/DGS for all the information.
Join Mosby Building Arts every Saturday from 12 to 1 p.m. on 97.1 FM. Rich Orse and guests give insider tips about renovations, design, construction, exteriors, and more. Tune in to Right at Home with Rich on Saturdays or catch the podcast online.
The question of the day, how close are we to losing our country? Is it already lost? Is it one presidential cycle away, one generation away, or the country will be just fine? We'd like to know what you think in the Annie Frey Show YouTube poll of the day. Get on there and vote. Time right now, 1:46. This time check is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
You're listening to award-winning, thought-provoking talk. You're listening to 97.1 FM Talk.
Your home for conservative talk.
On the air for over 20 years. This is the Annie Frey Show.
Do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, wanting to start again?
Follow Annie on Instagram at The Annie Frey Show.
Like a house of cards, one blow from caving in. Do you ever feel already buried deep, 6 feet under screens, but no one seems to hear a thing? Do you know that there's still a chance for you? 'Cause there's a spark in you. You just gotta ignite the light and let it shine. Just on the night, like the 4th of July. 'Cause baby, you're
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. Katy Perry's a weird. I almost said broad, but that was like
Just say it. Say it.
not the attitude that I was trying to evoke there. She's come out and said some pretty hyper liberal things. She comes from a very conservative family. I think she famously got trolled because her dad voted for Trump or like was seen in a MAGA hat or something like that. I don't know what she's all about in total. She was a gospel singer in church, like she was a
Christian artist,
church singer.
I mean, her ex-husband's Russell Brand.
Yeah. Maybe that's why she divorced him.
Yeah. Probably.
I hate profiling everybody who I hear or see or anybody who does anything. It's like, but what are their politics? Blech, barf. I wanted to talk about the 5 most likely Senate seats that could flip. These are Democrats. And in the landscape that is to come here, we have a very Republican-friendly layout for the next election in 2024. And if you were listening to Jim Carafano speaking with us about what we can possibly do to the border issue, I said my fear here is that the only way that this is going to get solved, the border problem is going to get solved in this 50-50 country, as Carafano regularly refers to it, is as a compromise that's going to involve citizenship for a lot of these people. And I hate it. But I don't see how there is a solution that is going to exist outside of that. And if you listen to Carafano talk, he's going to tell you, and he did tell you, that no, this is not a question about compromise. This is a question about right and wrong, and we need to get people in there who are going to do what's right. So, I have a feeling I know where a lot of you folks land on that issue. The idea of getting the Senate in your corner on fixing this border problem that we have is a huge, huge portion of it. Anybody want to take a stab at who the 5 are?
Ooh, I'd love to. I think I'll get them, though. Well, I get 4 of them. Let's see here. We're talking about West Virginia.
You want to say the senators' names?
Joe Manchin, although I forget it's the governor of.
You don't need to tell the challenger.
Who's the challenger? Okay,
it's the senator.
Who's the current one?
Who might be in trouble?
Ohio would be Sherrod Brown.
Are you reading this off of the computer?
I read it this morning.
Well, don't guess if you read it today.
Well, I read about I didn't read the same article.
Brad,
as
do you have any
topic?
Brad's looking it up right now.
I want to make sure I'm doing this. John Tester, is he one of them?
Yeah, you're looking it up. This is not a game. This is research.
No, I just wanted to make sure John Tester was a Democrat.
5 people, 5 senators who are in the biggest peril when it comes to the 2024 election. And if you think about it right now, a 49-51 split, Democrats having control, gaining a seat in the red wave. Pause for effect. Joe Manchin of West Virginia, Tester of Montana, Sherrod Brown in Ohio, Sinema in Arizona, and Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin. And if you look at those 5 states, the impact that a Wisconsin and an Arizona specifically are going to have on this election, Ohio, West Virginia, those are going to be red states on the whole. Montana likely as well, John Tester being the Democrat that has some sort of semblance of power in Montana. It's very possible that 3 of those 5 they're in red country. I would assume Trump country, Ohio, Montana, West Virginia. I mean, I don't know how much Trump country Montana is, but I'm thinking he'd be doing just fine in Montana. These are hugely impactful races that are going to exist in the larger conversation outside of who's the Republican. There's not a Republican on the list that I think hurts people in those 3 of 5 states, but I do think that Donald Trump would have a pretty dramatic effect down ballot on an Arizona race and a Wisconsin race.
Yeah, the article I was reading this morning was talking about how much Democrats are actually on defense in this coming cycle, because it's something like it's around 25 seats they're going to have to defend, where Republicans only have to defend like 11 or something. It's a very favorable cycle for Republicans.
With Arizona, is Kyrsten Sinema very publicly said she's an independent. She left the Democratic.
She didn't publicly say. She left the Democratic Party and she became an independent.
So is there a because she votes pretty much with the Democrats 99% of the time. Is there a Democratic challenger to her seat as well?
She hasn't said what she's doing yet.
Okay,
she
so
hasn't declared her position in.
Okay, so if she runs again and there's a Democratic challenger, that could split the Democratic vote in Arizona, and then the Republicans would have a better shot.
Well, back to my point that I was making, Donald Trump on the top of the ticket will make an impact on down ballot, and every state will have that same sort of effect on especially more local races where you need a smaller collection of votes in order to win specific races. If Joe Biden is on the top of the ticket for the left, I think it has the same effect. If you have Joe Biden in a place like, let's say, for instance, for the sake of conversation, it's Joe Biden and somebody not Trump on the Republican side, I think Kristen Sinema and Tammy Baldwin, Arizona and Wisconsin, become much more gettable than if Trump is part of the equation. Trump has lost Arizona and Wisconsin in the last essentially 3 elections, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And for Donald Trump to be on the top of the ticket will have an effect there. Maybe it will help shore up votes in some other states, so maybe it'll balance out. But again, I look at these 5 states in our union right now and think this election in 2024 is really going to come down to those. I'm not really interested in any national polling on anything. It's like Arizona, Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Vegas, the state of Vegas.
Nevada.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I
Nevada.
mean, other than Reno, maybe. Nevada. Yeah, the most exciting one on there. Now, Trump, I don't know if you associate him with Trump or not, but Ron Johnson from Wisconsin won in 2022 in Wisconsin, which is why I think they're saying Tammy Baldwin may be at risk because Wisconsin just elected a Republican senator in the last session. But I think what's exciting to me is that the only seat that they're saying that Democrats have a chance of picking off that they don't currently have is Texas. Now, I don't know if you think Texas is in play in the next election, but I don't. And so if that's the
Who's
only
saying
one,
that?
this is just whatever the Hill article I read this morning talking about the same subject that's saying, yeah, well, Texas is probably their number one chance. And I'm going, okay, good luck. 2024, here we come, because I don't think Texas is really in play.
So who were they? I've not heard anyone suggest that Texas is even in the conversation for being a losing seat for Republicans.
Yeah, let me look it up because it was talking about, let me see here. Primary calendar, if I can re-find it, it'll take me a minute. But whoever they were quoting was saying, like, that's their best chance. Now, I don't know if they're actually believing that, but, if it's a balanced article, maybe they were just looking for somebody to say something on the side. Here it is. I found it. It'll take me a second to find that quote. But the Hill and West Virginia, Montana. Let's see here.
We got a minute.
That's the article I was on too.
Oh, is it? Oh, same article. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I just don't think that's I don't think that's a realistic concern that anybody out there has right now. I've not heard anyone suggest that Texas is going to be realistic battleground, especially, good grief, with the issues that we've been talking about with the border and so many of the aggressive. The entire Democrat platform is based on energy. Texas ain't gonna vote for green energy the way that this Democrat Party is suggesting that they would. Not that I know of. So is it Cornyn?
Yeah, it would
Ted
be.
Cruz just win again?
Yeah, I think it would be Cornyn.
Ugh, I don't know. If the United States loses Texas Senator, we might just lose the whole thing, and I'll have to go to Texas because that would be bonkers. Stick around, vote in the Annie Frey YouTube poll. How close are we to losing our country? Already lost. We're one presidential cycle away, one generation away, or the country's going to be just fine. Go to the Annie Frey YouTube channel, vote, leave a comment. Hannah will feature them in about 45 minutes.
Think back to when you started your business. Hopefully you have a smile on your face when you remember how it was back then. But if you're like me, when my brother and I started Acropolis 27 years ago, we were just hanging on. Starting a small business is hard. The pressures often lead to making promises that you hope you can keep. Fast forward to today, just like you, we learned long ago what we were good at and where we should be spending our time and energy. Unfortunately, some think it's easy to start an IT business or bolt it on to another business. At Acropolis, we don't sell copiers, we aren't electricians or accountants. IT management and support isn't our side hustle, it's the only thing we do. There are a lot of immature IT companies out there, and we all know good intentions do not equal good, consistent results. If you aren't happy with IT in your organization and want to work with a business as mature as yours, give us a call. We have helped many of St. Louis's best companies wrap their arms around technology, and we can help you too. Visit us on the web at acropolistech.com and let's start a conversation. Acropolis, it's a better way to manage IT.
I've been looking at houses that are for sale and watching how quickly they're being snatched up right now. There's just not a lot of inventory out there. And if you are somebody who's been considering selling your house on the Illinois side of the river, Jen Teskey can help you navigate this very, very active market right now and get your house sold for top dollar and fast. You need Jen Teskey with RE/MAX Alliance and the Jen Teskey team. There is none like it. You call them or text them at 618-541-1010, 618-541-1010, and just tell them, I'm looking into maybe selling my house. What can you tell me? If you think that you need to sell it ASAP, you wish it were listed and have sold already, or if you're thinking you're going to sell it within the next year, when you talk to Jen Teskey, just tell them that up front and say, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to sell or ready to sell right now, but I wanted to have the conversation so I could have more information. They're going to love that. They're going to give you everything you need and put you on the path to success. 618-541-1010, online at jenteskeyhomes.com.
They came from every corner of the country, from small towns and big cities. But they all shared one thing in common. They belonged to a family called Marines, a tough and determined few dedicated to protecting everything we hold sacred. And still, they come. Celebrate the history of those proud few who have earned the title Marine.
For a hole in your roof or a whole new roof, Frederick Roofing.
Over 90,000 satisfied customers since 1929. Frederick Roofing, 314-645-2000.
Tony La Russa here. Men, are you running out of stamina rounding third base? If so, call my friends at Victory Men's Health in O'Fallon, Illinois. Scoring at home is important, just as important as crossing the plate with the winning run. VictoryMen'sHealth.com.
KFTK FM Florissant. From the Under Law Injury Lawyers, GetJim.com studio. 97.1 FM Talk. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Improvement at the airports. Lisa Brady, Fox News. For some travelers, though, the nightmare isn't over after problems that started before the holiday weekend.
Those long lines in Atlanta, D.C., Houston, and in the Bay Area. People have been stuck waiting for hours in line at Newark International, just trying to get some answers after thousands of flights were canceled and delayed.
Fox's Alexis McAdams. Staffing issues getting much of the blame, along with bad weather and smoke from the wildfires in Canada. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen heads to China this week, days after a delayed trip by Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Florida Republican Congressman Carlos Jimenez tells Fox News.
It certainly seems that the Biden administration is doing everything it can to please China and give them propaganda victories.
Yellen says her trip is to boost communication with China, but it comes amid ongoing tensions on a number of issues, and Americans in general are being urged to reconsider travel to China. An advisory issued today warns that U.S. citizens could be detained without explanation or access to consular services. The search for suspects continues in Baltimore after a block party shooting yesterday that left 2 people dead and more than 20 injured.
Anyone who had a weapon at the scene will be one of our suspects until we eliminate that they are not. So we want to speak to them.
Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley also appealing for help from the public, a reward of at least $28,000 being offered. The State Department says the U.S. is closely tracking the situation in a West Bank refugee camp where 8 Palestinians were killed in a drone strike Israel says was targeting militants. Prime Minister Netanyahu says the city of Jenin has become a refuge for terrorism, and that Israeli forces are destroying command centers with minimal injury to civilians. America is listening to Fox News.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go: shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Air Comfort Service, heating, cooling, and insulation, weather.
A pretty quiet Monday afternoon, partly sunny skies, just a tiny chance of a spot thunderstorm. Let's not worry about it. We should peak at about 92. Tonight, partly to mostly clear skies, 69 for the overnight low. Check out that big, bright, full moon of July all night long. Tuesday, the 4th of July, partly sunny. Again, a very limited spot afternoon storm. Don't worry about it. It's hot, though, 95. This is 97.1 FM Talk. Chief Meteorologist Dave Murray.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. Wounded Warrior Project was created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war, whether those scars are physical or mental. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month, but you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
Hi, this is Brian with Velocity Home Buyers, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and want to sell it fast at a fair price, call me at 314-782-3333. I can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. I buy houses in any condition and any price range in the St. Louis area. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy more. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant won't pay me the rent houses. Do you own a house that needs updating, but you don't have the time or money for it? Great, because I love buying outdated houses. I buy vacant houses, job relocation houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at 314-782-3333. That's 314-782-3333.
If you need solid hires fast, you need Indeed. The all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates from the same place. Want to find your next great hire? Visit Indeed.com/credit.
You need a home or commercial security system you can rely on? One that lets you know that the kids got home from school, alerts you to an emergency, monitors your porch, and can even manage your thermostat and lights. Reliant Security can do all of that and more. Visit us at secure-reliant.com.
This is where real local and national accountability happens. This is 97.1 FM Talk, St. Louis's home for conservative talk. This hour of the Annie Frey Show is brought to you by Ruler Foods. Low prices, no coupons. Ruler Foods.
That is exactly what I needed to hear.
Thank God someone here knows what they're talking about.
That's us. That's right. Gotta love this American ride.
All right, you need to take the time and get the full picture.
Don't get me wrong, I love the ladies. I mean, they rev my engine, but they don't belong in the newsroom. It is Anchor Man, not Anchor Lady.
What do you want from me? I'm not America's sweetheart.
Goodness sake, kid. Keep your voice down. Your father's listening to the radio.
I'm not America's sweetheart.
This is the Annie Frey Show.
Well, it's July 3rd, and you're at work, and we're at work, and we're all wondering why we're at work. Do you have tomorrow off? If you do have tomorrow off, it's kind of one of those things where this entire weekend, I've treated it in my mind like it's a 4-day weekend.
Me too.
But it's not.
No, it definitely is not. I have a lot of work to do
your
today.
own feelings.
Yeah. And then I'm like, no, you do have to go to work. And how come that is? Well, because it's a work day and that's just the way the business goes. But it's not really that big of a deal. Monday felt less pressure to me. Not that I really feel pressure on Mondays than I usually do, because I was like, I don't have to go to work on Tuesday. Will Wednesday, Thursday, Friday seem like the longest work week in the history of work weeks?
Yes, they will, unless we come back from Tuesday and forget that we worked today and we go, oh, it's Monday. You know, on Wednesday, if we think it's Monday, then we're going to be fine.
I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about Tuesday night. Is it Tuesday night or is it tonight?
No, it is Tuesday night. Thank you.
Sorry, I should have asked you that about 2 minutes ago.
That's okay. That's actually one of the reasons I'm going to be here late tonight working too, is preparing all of that. So many materials. We've expanded the American soundtrack, music for fireworks, to 3 hours this year. It used to be 8 to 10, and it was just basically Americana music and some features. I've got, things like the Gettysburg Address and then Little Pink Houses by John Mellencamp back to back. There's just like a mix of stuff, but it's all American-based music and features, and adding an hour, so working on a lot of stuff this year. It's 8 to 11 on Tuesday night.
What I love about it is it's a mini version of what we do for Christmas.
It is
on the show. It's like the idea that when you are hanging out with your loved ones, your friends, your family, you're doing a barbecue or whatever, you wouldn't normally think like, oh, all my favorite people are here of such a diverse background. Let's turn on 97.1. You probably haven't had that thought, but in this instance, we want to be able to invite you to keep 97.1 on. So it's a little different programming. And Christmas, we do the same thing. We have a bunch of anecdotes from people around the office here in the station, but you host that whole thing.
Yeah, and I tell you what, there is quite a bit more Christmas music than there is 4th of July music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things that you go, oh, of course there's tons. There's Lee Greenwood and there's Ray Charles singing America the Beautiful. But then you go through about 6 or 7 of them and then you go, I think that's about it.
Well, here's a question.
Add Milkshake to that list.
Apparently.
And I'm waiting for it's Pink Houses by John Mellencamp really? Because sometimes these American songs, that's not a pro-America song.
Well, it's not pro-America, but it's not anti. It's almost like Slice of Life, and some of it's negative and some of it's positive.
Like American Woman? That's not a good song.
It says the word America.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what your credentials are, not credentials, your criteria are for picking these songs. And I'm just waiting for all the people in the live chat to be like, that's not an American song.
Yeah.
That's not an American song. Because sometimes I like American Woman is one of the lessons I learned years ago, but you throw it in a patriotic playlist and someone's like, this is actually really not nice at all too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line because there are songs by Bruce Springsteen, for instance, Born in the USA. Now, he's not the kind of guy that I go, oh man, that guy loves America. But but when you hear Born in the USA, it takes, at least for me, it takes me back to my childhood in the 80s. And I just think if you dig deep into the song, maybe there's something more there. But there are songs that are traditionally American focused, like Creedence Clearwater Revival's "It Ain't Me." That's
Fortunate Son.
Fortunate Son, that one. That song is not pro-America
No,
at
it is
all,
not.
but it's one that you kind of associate with America. But I leave that one out because it's like I got to decide based on each song which ones I play and which ones I don't. Basically, how does it make you feel is what I ask.
I could make the argument that they're all, if they're being done by American artists, they're all pro-America songs because criticizing the United States of America is pretty First Amendment flex.
Totally. But if you're criticizing America for being America, then you're like, well, maybe not today. I support your right, sir.
So tell people when they can listen to your questionable selections of. Okay, I listened to it last year and it was great.
Yeah, starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, so not quite when the sun goes down, and then starting at 9 o'clock. Well, it's 3 hours straight, so 8 to 11. But the real hard patriotic stuff with some really good speeches from American presidents and stuff really kicks in at 9, right about at dusk.
I thought, okay, so we'll be tuned in and just keep it right on 97.1. If you want to stream it too, you can go to the Odyssey app and we stream the whole station live 24/7. So you can follow 97.1 FM Talk on the Odyssey app and you can follow the Andy Frey Show too. But for these purposes, definitely follow the station and hang out with Ryan Wiggins and 97.1 for your fireworks viewing pleasure. 15 signs you're more respected at work than you realize.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's hear it, because I'm so oblivious I won't know any of them.
You're just going to have to tell me how you feel about
you.
No, you don't have to tell me. This has nothing to do with me.
Okay.
I'll just tell you.
Okay.
Number 1, you're left to get on with your work. On the surface, your boss leaving you to get on with things may not feel like a sign of respect, but you may even feel neglected and overlooked because of this. But look at it this way. Your boss doesn't feel the need to look over your shoulder or micromanage you. That shows trust.
I agree.
I like that.
Agree?
I like it too.
You like
and here it's usually because everybody's just so busy. They're like, I don't care, just do it.
Shh, don't take this from me, Ryan. Just don't take this from me.
Number 2, you're given freedom and flexibility. Surveys have shown that 78% of employees feel their productivity increases when work arrangements are flexible. A lot of news stories coming out right now about businesses and corporations saying you need to come back to work, physically be in the office. I think that remote work and the ability to work remotely is one of the best things that came out of a really, really awful experience with the pandemic. But I think there are some jobs that could certainly be done remotely. I think what needs to be, I think the hybrid of all of that is the idea that you could do your job, and if you need a day or if there's a life circumstance that comes up where you can still do your job but do so remotely, that's where I would say flexibility. I think that's fantastic, but I do believe that the idea of people dipping into work instead of dipping out of work and working at home, I think it needs to be more of the latter. Like the predominant place of business needs to be the office, and then there's flexibility that comes around that. And I think we need to shift to that. That's my personal opinion.
Well, it seems like we're getting back to equilibrium on that issue right now, because it does require a level of trust from your boss to be able to say to you, hey, I know you're going to get your job done regardless, so I trust you to figure out that balance. But it was forced upon the world during COVID, and now we're kind of getting back to where the boss is saying, okay, I need you a little bit.
Yeah.
I like you. I love the hybrid model, though.
Especially as a parent.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Because if you need to go pick your kid up or you need to make a practice, I'm able to go pick my kids up when they're in school. It's so nice to be on summer break where I don't have to blaze out of here like I normally would. But it's nice to be able to have that flexibility. And to be the point of this article is signs you're more respected at work than you may realize. If you're allowed to do those things, then you're likely looked at as valuable to the company, and they trust you to still get your job done, which means that if you need to leave at 3 to pick up your kids, but you still had an hour of work to do, that hour of work is still going to get done, and the company isn't going to suffer because they've provided you that flexibility.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, when COVID hit, we started doing the shows at home. Man, that was a process. You'll remember it was like, all right, we're going to try to do this from home tomorrow. I think the first day we tried to do it,
I didn't even have access.
You didn't. You were just out of the picture because you couldn't make it work at your house yet. But every day we were working to improve. I mean, I have a whole studio built in my house now, which you guys have all been inside.
Right.
That would not be in my house if it weren't for COVID. So COVID happened, people were not coming back to work here for a long time because St. Louis was super particular. The city of St. Louis was very restrictive in what it was requiring people to do and so on and so forth. But then I got pregnant with Molly in the fall of 2020. Is that right? Yeah, in the fall of 2020. And I just didn't want to come back in while I was pregnant, not knowing the full long haul of what we were looking at. So I was out from March of 2020 through Labor Day of 2021. I was not coming in the studio. I think I came into the building maybe 3 times. And the truth is, we used to have a different producer for this show, and she quit the show. Literally, I found out the day after I got home from the hospital. And so I had to piece this whole thing back together. And when I was piecing it back together, the realization hit when Brad accepted the job. Like, I don't think that I can do this with the people in the room successfully being at home.
Well, it was a completely new dynamic, too.
Right. And I mean, we had to build something out of nothing. Brad, your long storied history in working in radio.
You've all listened to it if you've been listening to it since I've been on the air. That's my storied history in radio.
Yeah, this is where it starts and where we're going to take it as long as we possibly can. But to have somebody come in and, Ryan, you and I hadn't been in the studio together for 18 months basically. And it was like, how do we take this new thing that the Annie Frey Show is going to be and make it the best we possibly can, I don't know that I would have wanted to come back in. And nobody said, Annie, when you come back from maternity leave, you have to be in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that at this point in time, that would have been encouraged. But I think I've had a contract negotiation since then. I'm sure that I could have said, I want to be able to do the show from home 3 days a week or whatever. I could have been able to negotiate that. Don't know what I would have gotten out of it. But being in person, like it's the most basic part of work and functional work is communication. That's our job is to talk to each other. If we do this remotely, it's not the same, and it's not going to be as good.
And it wasn't the same doing it at home.
Saying it wasn't good?
Well, no, we could see each other, but it wasn't the same because the timing was just a little
hair of a delay.
And that little difference makes a big difference. And think about
when
this.
you're doing your comedy.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, when I bring the good stuff.
He would tell a joke and I wouldn't laugh right away, and he's like, it must be the delay.
Yeah, always. I would step into the gap and say, it must be the delay. Then you'd start laughing. You're right. Corona is also a beer. But we had only been in the studio together at that point for 5 months. Can you believe that?
No, I didn't realize that.
5 months, because I started in October, late September, October
2020?
Of 2020. No, of 2019. And so we had 5 months until COVID sent us all home.
No,
and then we had to
that.
basically redo everything. So, yeah, we hadn't had even that
Honestly,
much time.
5 months into somebody being in the room with you that wasn't always before, that's still adjusting time. So I would venture to say, I mean, the way the show worked pre-COVID with you on here, versus the way we've grown a lot since then.
Oh, yeah.
And we're both still here.
And then amazing.
Why
and
do
then
you sound so surprised?
Doing it during COVID was so weird.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting way off the topic of the beginning here, but
I think it's relatable though.
Yeah, I mean, doing our work during COVID from home, and I was actually in a studio for half of that. So then halfway through COVID, I switched to home because nobody thought it was going to last that long. I thought, well, I'll go into the studio for a month, and then we'll just go back. And it didn't change, and so we had to develop a completely new dynamic with you and I, especially because I think talking through the studio was a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
But when you and I would talk to each other, you remember you had to get to a point where you would go set up something and then ask a question and then go, Ryan,
yeah, I throw to you all the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like you could have been in the Middle East.
yeah. We talked about we just take an RV trip somewhere. I don't know. Can you broadcast from there?
People did that.
Yeah.
People did that. More little points here on signs you're more respected at work than you realize. I just found this to be very interesting because right now people are all assessing the ins and outs of their jobs, of how they feel about themselves in their workplaces. And with this conversation surrounding remote work and the job market, like we talked with Steve Moore earlier in the show, the job market being as aggressive right now as a lot of jobs available, people are looking at these things and saying, is this what I really want to be doing? Do people even respect what I'm doing here? So stick around. We'll talk more about this on the Annie Frey Show when we come back.
Mama and Daddy put the roots right here, 'cause this is where the
This
car
is the
broke
Annie
down.
Frey Show.
Yellow dog school bus kicking up red bus, kicking us.
Follow Annie on Twitter at Annie Frey Show.
TV on the RCA, no AC in the vents. We were Jesus.
Stewart's American Mortgage can help you get onto the path of a really good, smart mortgage decision. That's a 30-year commitment for most people. You want to make sure that that mortgage that you acquire for the home that you're looking to buy is going to be one that you're happy with. And there's no smarter move in the business than the bagel loan. I want you to call Stewie or text Stewie right now if you have a mortgage question that he can help you with. 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. When you talk to Stewie and you tell him what you're trying to do and buying a house, he is going to put you in a position to be the most competitive buyer out there, get you the lowest rate that he possibly can, and do so with the bagel loan. When you get a mortgage through Stewart's American Mortgage using the bagel loan, you pay zero in closing costs. Nothing. He doesn't roll them into the loan. He doesn't do a magic trick that makes them so you don't have to pay for them now, but you pay for them later. It's not there. Bagel loan makes it so you don't have to pay those closing costs. It's a really smart move, and it's a phone call or a text away. 314-324-4440. That's 314-324-4440. Google the bagel loan, NMLS number 226715.
Are you tired of feeling sick and tired? I'm Dr. Nick Barnes of Health from Within Family Chiropractic. Our simple 5-step approach aligns your health naturally. We correct spinal abnormalities to maximize nerve supply, focus on pure and simple nutrition, exercise and oxygen, mindset, and minimizing toxins in your body. Transform your health today with Health from Within, conveniently located on Manchester in Rock Hill, or online at healthfromwithinstl.com.
St. Louis physician Dr. Abicki created Neovitin 15 years ago to help support his own nutrition when he needed it most. Since then, Neovitin has helped thousands of people support their daily nutrition with sensible doses of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and Dr. Abicki's proprietary blend. If you're ready to join many St. Louisans in supporting their nutrition, give Neovitin a try. You can find Neovitin at your local Schnucks, Dierbergs, and online at neovitin.com.
This Little Light is a new podcast hosted by Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Join him as he explores falling in love with music, music education, and the creative process while interviewing the biggest names in music, like Rick Rubin.
I like things that are stripped down. I've always liked things that are stripped down. Then I can get to the point where I like something that's stripped down, and what's it like with an orchestra.
This Little Light is a presentation of Cadence 13. Subscribe and download it now on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Updating your home with James Hardie siding has never been more popular. With all the options available, you need a partner to ensure you maximize your investment. Siding Express is ready to refresh the appearance of your home or totally transform the look by installing Hardie shake, board and batten, lap siding, or a stone accent to make it your dream home again. Siding Express is an elite preferred James Hardie contractor. They also carry Anderson and Marvin windows and doors. Need ideas? Go to sidingexpress.com and schedule a free, no-obligation consultation today. sidingexpress.com.
There's always been a lot more riding on Metro Transit than people, like hundreds of careers with competitive pay, training, opportunities for overtime, and real benefits that really benefit your family. But hey, right now, there's even more. A $5,000 signing bonus. We're hiring everyone, from Metro Coloride, Metro Bus, and Metrolink operators to electricians and mechanics. Learn more at workatmetrostl.com and ride on to a real future. Work at metrostl.com.
Suicide is a topic that hides in the shadows. We often don't say anything even when we notice someone is struggling because we're afraid of making it worse. It's time we talk away the dark. Learn how to spot the warning signs for suicide and how you can have an open, caring, real conversation to help save lives. Visit the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention to watch the new short film and learn more at afsp.org/talkawaythedark.
You're listening to the Annie Frey Show live from the Air Comfort Service Heating, Cooling, and Insulation Studio. Air Comfort Service is celebrating 54 years of residential and commercial service, maintenance, and installation of heating and cooling systems. Get in your comfort zone. Visit aircomfortservice.com.
Odyssey.com is a universe of audio, and it's where you can download the app to stream 97.1 FM Talk. The Odyssey app. Download it today and stream anytime from anywhere. Where St. Louis comes to talk. 97.1 FM Talk. This is the Annie Frey Show. The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. A couple more things that show that you have more respect at work than you realize. The third one being it's okay for you to say no. If you are asked for things and you get to say no, that shows that people respect you at work. Ryan?
Well, I guess I would agree with that, and I guess I would also agree that I don't have any respect.
When are you allowed to say no?
I don't really say no. Yeah, but I think that's also a sign of respect that nobody's coming to me or, as far as I know, anybody else and going, hey, can you try to do this, when they know that that's not within your purview?
Or, I guess it probably, that's one of those things that really depends on the position you're in.
Yeah.
Number 4, you're not punished for errors. Don't get me wrong. When we mess up, it's important to have feedback. Never receiving any sign can be a sign of neglect at work. But that should never feel like the blame game. Punished for errors. Number 5, you're treated with compassion. I think that's kind of a good one. That people have a human understanding of you and your position and what you're doing. Mistakes happen, successes happen, life happens, and the ability to exist in your work. That's such a generational thing that I hear right now is like Gen Z is like, you shouldn't live to work, you should work to live. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good mentality. Where do you think our generation as millennials sits on that factor? Because being older millennials that the three of us are, I feel like we still have that boomer raised, you need to get a job, go get a job. Get a good job. Support yourself. As opposed to like, live your dreams. I don't know. I don't believe that my parents weren't interested in my dreams, but they never, ever even uttered anything close to those words.
No,
me.
but that's a big difference is that I don't think our parents probably ever said that to us. I mean, I don't know that my parents were discouraging dreaming or pursuing dreams, but society did tell us that. If you recall, I mean, we were 80s kids mostly, and then through the early 90s, that was a theme that we got preached through media a lot, which is
who
we did. Our generation did. Elder millennials.
I don't remember that message.
Oh gosh, it was everywhere. It was all about. Now it wasn't necessarily pursue your dreams. It was self-esteem and words that weren't around. I mean, those words did not exist.
I thought it was like get a job.
Self-esteem. I could think of moments where self-esteem was maybe more in focus, but I don't ever feel like self-esteem was the equivalent to how much is your degree going to cost and your job going to pay, and how is that going to make it so you could support yourself versus the studies that you can go into now that are very invested in that are not producing employees and employers.
That do what makes you happy.
YOLO.
Is that?
I feel like that's the mindset of Gen Z, and that's what some parents are saying to their younger kids, or do what makes you happy, or just live your dream. And sometimes you kind of gotta get a slap of reality, or else you're going to be suffering later on.
The thing that it seems to me too is, and I agree with you on that, Hannah. It seems like there's a whole attitude of do what makes you happy, and then whenever you don't make enough money doing what makes you happy, complain that nobody respects you enough or whatever. But it seems to me that I remember kind of what Ryan was saying in school, teachers being like, follow your dream, chase after your heart, stuff like that. But my parents were more of the mindset that the job was the means to reaching your dreams, but the job wasn't to be your dream in the end.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was just something that you needed to do because the world is real and you have to make money and you have to pay bills and you have to do these things. So the job was necessary for that, and you need to make sure you have...
It's a means to an end.
Right, and you have to have it on lock so that you can chase after your dreams.
We talked about this last week. I don't remember the context we were discussing it, but it was about, Ryan, understanding that you might need to spend money on things now to live a little bit now and not just constantly be saving and setting away. I think that honestly COVID did alter my how would I I don't know if it's not my life expectancy, but maybe my value of life, seeing that much death take place and the fear that accompanied it, even if you weren't somebody who experienced an up close and personal COVID death. I have people in my extended family who died from COVID, and I have people in my very close family who died during COVID. My grandma died in September of 2020, and she had a heart attack, but she was only allowed one visitor in the hospital the entirety of the time that she was in there, and that was my mom. And it shouldn't have been that way. There should have been other family members who were able to go see my grandma then, and they weren't able to. And so just understanding the value of time and the value of people over money has really dramatically shifted in my life. I would probably say in the last 3 to 5 years, COVID being a huge factor in that. I think that we've been pressured to save for retirement. I think that millennials have been keyed in on that for a long time. I think it's very important to do that. We came into the job, like we graduated high school, being an older millennial, we graduated high school right after 9/11 or right before. And then we got out of college right around the economy crashing in 2008 and was trying to be, successful in an economy where people were getting laid off and the economy was just going in the crapper. And then, the last 10 to 15 years have been kind of full of turmoil. It's been difficult, I think, to feel like you're getting a leg up. But I think that the idea that we are supposed to invest in something in the future has still been a priority.
Yeah, time and money. That's always the balance, right? For me, it was two events that decided, you know what? I need to stop just saving. I don't not save now. But one being having twins. When I had twins, I was like, anything anybody needs, I will pay for it because time was of the essence. We needed time. Number 2 is turning 40. It was a big deal for me as far as, maybe I don't have as long to save now as I do to spend some that I save.
Do you think you went through a midlife crisis?
If I did, that was it. It was just that mind shift. And really, a lot of it for me has been just shifting the way I think about money at all, about it being a means to do things, not just to have things.
What about you, Brad? Have you reflected on any semblance of midlife crisis?
Not yet. I mean, I've started to think about,
turning 40 this year?
Turning 40 next month.
Get ready. He's driving in a Lamborghini that day.
I'm coming in a Lambo. I'd come in a Lambo anyway. That's not a midlife crisis. That's just I have enough money to get it.
He's a car guy. So
Yeah.
it's different for him. If I come in a Lamborghini, send help.
What's going on with Annie?
First of all, I'll be running into everything on the way into the parking garage, which would be probably sad for somebody.
Yeah. No, I don't know that I've gone through a midlife crisis yet, but to sit there and to think, hey, the clock's ticking, you can't get off this ride, it just goes and it goes and it goes, so make the most of what you've got is a thought that has been popping into my brain more and more often.
Quarter life crisis here.
Yeah.
You having it now?
I don't know. It's hard to seek independence for myself. I'm so used to doing things for like my mom or for other people, and now I'm in this zone of every decision I make is for myself and myself only, and I'm nervous about shifting that into when I get a family, and it's just early 20s are crazy.
You said something a second ago that I can't shake. You said it was people always saying, pursue your dreams, do what makes you happy. That is so the mantra of this generation. And even
Which generation?
Of the generation that is now, regardless of what age you are. If you are existing now,
The do what makes you happy.
you are told that. And it is all self-focus. It's never, ever that you have to sacrifice anything to achieve anything. It's you deserve to achieve it right now.
It's so funny you guys were talking about saving for retirement. I've never heard my friends talk about that at all. It's always like, you deserve to spend money. You deserve to treat yourself. Like,
you deserve it.
Take the trip. You're young. You only live once. I never hear anything about preserving stuff for the future.
Well, and ironically, the amount of money that you could save right now at the age of 21, what that would do for you
in the future
is just exponentially really, wow, it's save. But you can't do if you're me and you've got 4 kids, you cannot do in your 30s what I could have done in my 20s. The difference was I didn't have any money in my 20s. I had no money, and I was not about to spend money that I didn't have to do things that I couldn't enjoy if I couldn't afford to do them in the first place. So, I mean, I remember my husband and I, because I had my son when I was 25 years old, and we were married when I was 23, and that seems so young right now, looking back on it, being in my late 30s. But at the same time, I remember he and I were discussing it, and we're like, we're not going to ever have the money that, air quotes, it requires to have a child. And if we have kids while we're younger, then maybe we'll get to enjoy our retirement on our own and do so in our, hopefully, more income-bearing years. But it's also something that at 39, talking about a midlife crisis, I have been confronted incredibly so with the understanding that when you get to be this age, my kids are born and growing, and I have a 2-year-old now, so we're kind of out of the baby phase. My son is a teenager, and he's, we're discussing high schools and what high school he might go to, and just the different things that he's going to participate in. So we're kind of heading into this new frontier there. And when you get to be this age, and I've drilled down on the anxiety that kind of comes with this, probably for most people, but definitely for me, it starts to feel like your life has shifted out of where you are, Hannah, which is beginnings, scary beginnings, the unknown of what's to come. If I choose this, then is that going to send me on a course that is going to end up somewhere where I don't want to be? Is it going to send me on the course of exactly where I do want to be? When you're 21, when you're getting out of college, when you're completing, all of the things that you were told as you were growing up, this is what you do next. You've got people always telling you what you do next. Then you get into this open frontier that you get to make of it what you want. And the biggest fear is that you're going to screw it up. When you get to be my age at 39, going into 40, it feels like the beginnings are over and the endings are coming. And that's a really, really heavy thing to take in. And I really look at this mentality of the me stuff. And I think that it's so detrimental because I feel like that there's never really a payoff that's going to exist that's going to satisfy that unquenchable thirst to make me happy all the time. That the real joy in life up until this point has been the people who are around me and the people who I share whatever level of success I do have at the time, and even more so the level of success that I don't have at the time. The things that tend to be the most valuable are the people who you're around while those really high highs and those really low lows are happening. And then when you get to the point where you're middle-aged and you're looking in the rearview mirror at the beginnings and you feel like you're looking through the windshield at the endings, I think that becomes a really, really heavy place to be. It's my personal experience. And I don't know how to navigate that yet because I've arrived at that point. No Lamborghini yet. But it's a difficult time. It's a difficult way to balance things. Which is why when I'm considering all of the in one hand time, in the other hand money questions that I have to ask myself and weigh those every single time, I'm just tending to weigh in favor of the time that I get to spend with people and the time that I have here. And it's difficult. I'd love to know what you all think about it. You can leave comments on the YouTube live chat. Go to the Annie Frey YouTube channel and let us know what you experienced. I know a lot of people listening may be north of 40 and you've been there, you've done that, and you're listening and you're thinking, oh, you're just kiddos. Well, I get that. I understand that. I respect that as well. Hannah being in her 20s, I can look back and remember what it was like to be that age. So your advice is always welcome. Stick around. We'll get to the YouTube live chat poll results when we return.
The Annie Frey Show is streaming online. Watch us live on YouTube and subscribe.
STS-armory.com. I have loved working and partnering with and shopping at STS Armory. They're located on South Drive in Pontoon Beach, Illinois, at the corner of Highway 111 and South Drive. Going into STS Armory for a firearm purchase or to sign up for one of their classes, which you can also do by calling them at 618-931-GUNS, 618-931-GUNS. You talk to them about what you're looking to achieve. Here are a list of different classes that they carry. The concealed and carry class with a basic pistol focus. They have ladies only classes. So if you are somebody who is not really familiar with firearms or you want to be around other women in that class, I totally understand and respect that. We just have a different set of problems and a different set of reasons why you might decide to carry a firearm and want to acquire that conceal and carry license. They have pepper spray classes, and they also have classes that teach firearm safety and education for kids and teens. STS Armory is dedicated to the whole aspect of responsible gun ownership and operation, and that's the Frey family destination for all of our questions, our needs, and our purchases. Call them at 618-931-GUNS or find them online at sts-armory.com.
Hi, this is Thomas Helbig with the Retirement Advisory Group.
Hi, I'm Bob Kershaw, Tom's nephew. As a family business, we are committed to protecting your retirement, whether you're nearing retirement or already retired. What if it were possible to protect you from market downturns without having to make an emotional decision to buy or sell? What if you could take advantage of a strategy that would automatically take you out of harm's way during the bad years and position you for the growth opportunity during the good years?
The secret is in linking safely to the market without putting your principal at risk. By linking to the market instead of owning the market, you can participate safely on autopilot and lock in your gains without creating a taxable event. Go online at retirementkey.com for a no-obligation retirement review. Learn the strategies that have helped our clients retire with confidence for the past 36 years. And just for coming in, you'll get a copy of our latest edition book, Your Key to a Worry-Free Retirement. So go online at retirementkey.com That's retirementkey.com.
Shooing seagulls away from our beach snacks is easy, but keeping my frequent heartburn away, that was a full-time job. I had to chew up to 10 antacids a day to manage it. Then I tried Prilosec OTC. Just 1 pill a day blocks my frequent heartburn for a full 24 hours, giving me one-and-done heartburn relief. Thanks to Prilosec OTC, now my heartburn's on vacation too.
Prilosec OTC. 1 pill a day, 24 hours, 0 heartburn. It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go. Shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Celebrate the month of the 4th with Zero Res and get 3 rooms of carpet clean for just $129 and a 4th room free. Also save 20% off whole home air duct cleaning. Call right now. Ask for the Mark Reardon special. 314-474-2020 or book online. ZeroResSTL.com.
Annie had some really great conversations earlier with Steve Moore and Jim Carafano. You can rewind on the Odyssey app to hear those. She spoke with Steve Moore about some manufacturing issues we're having in the country right now, and she spoke to Jim Carafano about what is going on with France. The time is 2:43. This update is sponsored by Jerry Kelly Heating and Air Conditioning.
It's time for a $98 AC tune-up.
St. Louis's home for conservative talk.
Our legal analyst, Brad Young.
If you want to stop discriminating on the basis of race, then stop discriminating on the basis of race. To the left, this is a terrible decision because it eliminates discrimination.
Weekdays from 3 to 6.
American girls.
You're listening to The Annie Frey Show.
We'll always stand up and salute. We'll always recognize.
Find the podcast, on-demand audio, and more at 971talk.com/Annie.
So we can sleep in peace at night when we lay down our head. My daddy served in the army, where he lost his right eye, but he flew a flag out in our yard till the day that he died. He wanted my mother, my brother, my sister, and me to grow up and live happy in the land of the free. Now this nation that I love is falling under attack. A mighty sucker punch came flying in from somewhere in the back. Soon as we could see clearly through our big black eye, man, we lit up your world like the 4th of July.
Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. That song has a special place in the memory of my lifetime. I was a 17-year-old senior in high school in September of 2001 when the Twin Towers were hit, and I was in college when we had the big countdown on cable news of, it was the time that Saddam Hussein had to turn over his weapons of mass destruction. Now, not to get into a whole conversation about that part, but we went to Wild Country every Thursday night for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, maybe. And the day that happened, I don't know if it was a Thursday or if it was like the next Thursday, but at Wild Country, they played that song and the place just went nuts. Like it's kind of one of those moments in time just to remember the mindset of where America was, how hurt America was, and how ready to fight America was. Did we go looking for a fight? Whatever, we could talk about that at another day. But the post-September 11th, 2001 attitude of this country is unrecognizable to people now who didn't live it. The idea that we would come together and be like, everybody, it's like when your buddy comes in, when you're in high school or college, your buddy comes in and something bad happened. You're like, we're going to, if we're going to fight or we're going after him. And everyone's just like, just say the word. And then they all go, like, that's the way America was. Very emotional about it, but emotional because they love this country.
I remember after 9/11 for at least a year, I mean, you'd see politicians from both sides of the aisle stand up on Capitol steps and read portions of scripture and things that it was like, oh, yeah, this is kind of the way things maybe were 20 years before that. I don't know if they were exactly like that, but you had a lot more bipartisanship in the past, and then all of a sudden you did again, but it didn't last a long time.
I have talked to friends of mine who served in the conflicts that came out of that event in Iraq, but also in Afghanistan. And these are people who work with other people who serve there, and it's not the same as Vietnam. It's not the same. But there are people who serve this country and fought in these conflicts over there, especially knowing what we know from this Afghanistan report, what we saw with our own eyes, and where this country has come since then. And it is disgusting to me that these people will be made to feel less than for having served in that. Like, this is not a history story to me. This is a life that I've lived with acquaintances of people who I know and who I love. And they have been put in a position to ask themselves, you know, if you reflect on their lives right now and what they're going through with people who have experienced war, which is something I've never experienced and God willing never will. I don't know what they've seen. I don't know what they've felt. I don't know what kind of pains that they're dealing with, both physical and mental. But there are people who exist in this country who went to war and fought for this country, and at this point in time are questioning, why? I wish I could hug those people.
Mm-hmm.
And tell them that it's going to be okay.
That we
the
love
country
them.
will be just fine.
I think that there is a whole contingent of veterans that are doing various jobs in this country that are apart from their military service right now. There's a whole bunch of people that don't fit the idea of veteran that we grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
Like veterans, hear what I'm saying here and not what I'm not, but veterans were like the old guys who wore the hats in the Walmart.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And smelled like pipes.
What?
Like they always like a pipe smell to me. I would associate that with my childhood.
It sounds to me like you knew one veteran who smoked a pipe.
No, I knew a couple. I had an uncle and a couple other people.
The people who have continued to uphold the idea of this country being worth fighting for are my age. They're our age. They are of all generations. And anybody who is looking right now and going, we've already lost this country, I still see people who are Hannah's generation who are serving this country, and they are the best of the best. And they do believe that there's something we're fighting for. And as long as we have people in this country who believe that, I think we will be just fine. The YouTube live chat poll for today, get in there and vote before we wrap it up here in about 7 minutes. How close are we to losing our country? You've got 4 options. Is it already lost? Are we one presidential cycle away, one generation away, or the country will be just fine? Brad, what do you think about this poll?
It's a generation. It's always one generation away. If you don't pass on your values to the next generation, that's where they die. It's not a presidential cycle, and no, we're not going to be just fine. We have to be ever vigilant, and we have to keep in mind that we're one generation away from losing what is America.
What do you think, Ryan?
After going through COVID, I think COVID from March 2020 to March 2022, if we want to put those parameters on it, that was an incredible stress test for the country to see how our leaders especially, but voters too, but our leaders handle pressure and handle power. And they almost exclusively and primarily in blue states failed that test. Now, some checks and balances that have survived and still exist, I think, are still there and were shown to be in effect and still working. So in that sense, I like that. But I'm going to say already lost based on the way that most leaders handled the stress test of the COVID era.
You're saying the country's already lost?
I'm saying that we've already gone too far down the...
You have 4 options. What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm saying already lost.
Wow. Hannah?
I'm with Brad. I say it's one generation away. I don't think that the president can fix the entirety of what's broken in the country. I think it's more than just policies or political stances that's broken.
I agree with Brad and Hannah. We are always one generation away from losing what we value because we have to pass those values down. And we are still a very new country. I am, especially in wake of what we were listening to Jim Carafano talking about when he was discussing France and just indicating how different of a country France is. And what he talked about was assimilation. He said, France doesn't have an immigration problem. They have an assimilation problem. France is opening their borders to anybody coming in, but they're not assimilating. They're not bringing these people in and teaching them what it means to be French, what it means to be in France. And you can't expect people, you couldn't have people come into your own home and not teach them the ways of your home and expect there to be a positive coexistence somebody is going to have to assimilate one way or the other. You're either going to have to teach people to be like you and to live like you or to respect how you choose to live, or you're going to have to do that for the other people. You can't have in a small space people living entirely different lives with different, essentially legalistic structures and expect that to be harmonious. You can't expect that. That's not realistic. It might be idealistic, but it is in fact absolutely not realistic. America is a country of assimilation. America is a country that was built on people like you and me. And I don't know who the heck you are, but people like you and me living in a country where what you believe and how you feel, that is the number one right that you have. And the same goes for me. And the number one thing that has to exist is we have to have a mutual respect for our rights to be different. The culture that exists in the United States of America is one of immigration. It's one of assimilation, where we have communities that are founded with different, cultures and different influences, but you come and you go and you experience all these different cultures in one big place, and it's supposed to be our strength. And it was until there was a political advantage being sought in reminding us that we were so different. The idea that people of Italian descent and French descent and Mexican descent and maybe African descent, all of these different people in your life, but what they all are is they're all Americans, and you play on the same t-ball teams and you worship in the same church and you stop by the same post office because you live in the same communities. That is the American strength that exists. And it doesn't exist if we don't rapidly and aggressively disagree on things, because we come from different places. And in this country, we get to have incredibly different perspectives. In France, they're pretty proud of being French. In Italy, they're pretty proud of being Italian. They have these rich, millennia-long heritages that they want to celebrate. In America, we're like babies. And we're all coming together in this family that is supposed to use it as our strength. And there are people who are out there right now weighing on the differences that they can use to show how divided we are. And it is a matter of perspective. You can choose to see it as a weakness when someone wants to make you afraid of seeing it as a strength. The idea that we work in diverse communities and we live in diverse communities is a strength. It's what makes the country great. And I bet you that this week at your 4th of July celebrations, you are going to have experiences with incredibly diverse groups of people who believe in a diverse group of policies and political angles. And you need to celebrate that, because that's the most American thing of us all. One generation, because we have to give that mentality down to our kids, in the face of politicians who are trying to sell you on a quick vote, because we do it every 2 years. Hannah, you want to give us the results before we exit here?
Yes. The question is asking, how close are we to losing our country? Are we already lost? Are we one presidential cycle away, one generation away, or the country will be just fine? 38% of the people voted that we are one presidential cycle away from losing our country. 26% of the people said we're one generation away. 20% of the people said the country will be just fine, and 17% of the people voted that we're already lost.
Well, that's refreshing to see. And because that means that it matters. What we do now, what we believe now, how we speak now matters. And on this Independence Day, remember that our differences make us strong, and don't let anyone else out there tell you otherwise. Stick around. The Mark Reardon Show up next.
When you have Rhino Shield on your house, it does a couple of things for you. It beautifies the house